Welcome to the Night Show, and we will begin shortly. As always, we'll take a few minutes to let anyone who wants to come in. Alright, and while we wait for others to show, actually, let's just do this right now. Welcome to the Night Show. I'm your host, TK Diz Isaac Orion. Eon, you know what you can call me. And last time on Night Show with Danganropa 2, Goodbye Despair, we finished the main story. That's right, we have gone through everything. We've finished the killing school trip. I hope everyone enjoyed it. It was hell. But now that we've done so, we've unlocked two new modes. Island mode, where Monokuma lost against Usami, and basically the killing school trip never happened. Or we can read or play the light novel, Danganropa If, written by that amazing writer. Don't know who he is. Never heard of that amazing writer. I wonder if he works for Star Labs. But here's what I'm going to say for you guys. Which one would you rather see first? I will say this. That will probably be our next couple of episodes, but what do you want to see? What do you want to see first? Island mode, or would you like to see an alternate telling of the very first game? Note in the chat, please. It's possible we might do both in one episode. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure how long one of them takes. Because I know Island mode takes at least $51 days, but I don't actually know how that is playthrough time. Especially, I think it's possible to make those count. That is a good question. I would hope no one kills me. That's what I feel like. That would be hell. Let's not make that the question for this. Or I would rather be in a situation like If, because at least then there's no killing game, I think. Or at least it doesn't work out as well. But, yes. So, a vote for which would you guys rather start with? For these bonus episodes, would you like to do Danganropa If or Island mode? Because I think we're good for both. I see one vote for If. Anyone else? Who else would like to see Danganropa If? And learn more about this character who's on the screen right now, who was not in the game we just played. I see 2 votes for If. Anyone else? Let the vote go for at least another minute. And looks like the answer is, with 2 votes out of all you here, Danganropa Trigger Happy Havoc If is going to be the answer. Thank God I have plenty of water. Here we go. Oh, you can finish this off. Alright, well, let's do it from the beginning, because I have no idea when you can save. I never watched this to the end. If Monokuma... Here. Monokuma monologue. The world is full of ifs. If Adam hadn't tied the knot with Eve, society as we know it would never have been born. The world that everyone lives in is just one outcome among countless ifs, and will continue to be a muddled world, overflowing with infinite ifs. If what is in miso soup, you know. What lies beyond this point is a scary world filled with iffy stepfathers who abandon their families. A Klein bottle where the inside and the outsides are filled with uncertainty. Ah, but don't break it, okay? It'd be so expensive that there's no way you'd ever be able to pay me back. Ahem. No matter how you look at it, ifs are simply worlds like any other. No matter how hypothetical the world is, the future is the only thing that's truly foggy. And the past is more solid than a frozen banana. You can't change a conclusion that has already happened. Even if you see a world that may have existed, it wouldn't have affected the people living in reality. Because if is only if, after all. So yeah, obviously this story we're going to see is non-canon, which is kind of sad. You gotta be honest. It would give them an interesting perspective if they wanted to do something, continue with based off this idea. Oh, and I left to note, please note that, there is a vote going on for what the next game is. Currently, you can find the vote via my Tumblr, DragonKnightSworn, at tumblr.com, and the current votes standing for this are, out of 9 people who have voted, with a total of 18 votes, Danganropa V3 is winning with 5 votes. Danganropa 1, 4 votes. World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, OG game only, with 3 votes. Are all tied with... Well, yeah, those are tied for 2. Oblivion has 2 votes, and Dragon Age Origins has 1 vote. With the other options is going back to the Xenoverse with Pokemon, and let's not forget about Reborn, the OG Final Fantasy VII, Overlord 2, Fable, The Lost Chapter, Skyrim with mods. And if there was enough people written in for the game, I would also mention that we do have Persona 3 Portable available. But let's continue with this. Even if a parallel world exists where a particular if actually happened, humans cannot cross the boundaries between worlds that easily. No matter how far it goes, it will always be a what-if scenario. Do you want to see that? You got some sick interests. Don't you think it's an insult to Makoto and the others after the tragedy they overcame? Though as far as I'm concerned, I'll still insult them. We knew this was Monokuma speaking. If you're gonna look at if, I think it'd be better if you view the outside of the Klein bottle first. It might even be better if you view the ending of a video game called Danganropa Trigger Happy Habit. Try to play it multiple times, and spend your free time with Junko and Shima at least 3 times too. It may be ideal if you can collect all the items and movies too. We're not going to do that. But if you guys have come this far, I'm sure you've already done that. We haven't. Still, I'd buy the game if I were you. I have the game. I'd actually buy at least 2 copies if I were you. I'm not going to do that. The curtain lowers. What should I do with this? Makoto Naegi was at a loss. Despite his hesitation, his situation was extremely simple, and composed of 3 key factors. The first factor was that Makoto was currently locked inside a school. Hope's Peak Academy is a school for the privileged elite, and each student attending possesses ultimate talent. Makoto was chosen to attend Hope's Peak Academy by a lottery held to select the ultimate lucky student. When he arrived for his first day of school, he immediately lost consciousness, and when he woke up, he saw all the exits and windows had been sealed shut. The next factor was Monokuma, a mysterious robot bear being operated by the mastermind, and the announcement he made to all the students. You'll be living your whole life in this academy, he declared. If you want to leave, then kill someone and become the Blackens. We'll never understand that term. This strange, remote-controlled robot was telling Makoto and his fellow Ultimates to start killing each other in exchange for their freedom. They learned that more than one Monokuma exists, and that each one contained a bomb to prevent anyone from attacking them. On top of that, Monokuma announced that the person who attempted to harm him would receive punishment. The third and final factor was the red button that Makoto was currently holding in his hand. The words "escape button" were crudely written on this button in marker. And though the first 2 factors were certainly cause for panic, Makoto only seemed to be a loss over the third. During his free time, Makoto noticed that the school store was open, and his curiosity got the better of him. He was overwhelmed by the disjointed atmosphere upon entering, but his attention was soon on a strange vending machine. The words "Mono Mono Machine" were written on it, and it seems to accept the strange bear pattern coins they had sometimes found inside the school. It seemed like a bad idea, but Makoto thought there might be a chance that this machine could dispense some way of escaping the school, and so he inserted the only coin he had into the coin slot, and the result was the escape button mentioned earlier. There's a limit to how much you could tease us. Maybe the mastermind who trapped us in here is making a cruel joke. These thoughts filled Makoto's mind, and he began to feel deeply discouraged. However, there's always a chance, right? Makoto was just an ordinary boy, and he only gained entry to Hope's Peak Academy through a lottery to find the ultimate lucky student. Maybe that luck was the real deal. If this button is real, maybe I can let Saika. Makoto took a deep, slow breath and pressed the button. Instantly, pain burst through his entire body. Ugh! Makoto's arms and legs went limp as he lost his balance and fell to the floor in a crumpled heap. As he breathed heavily, it dawned on him what had just happened. I got electrocuted? He looked down at the button in his hand and noticed a small needle sticking out of it. Makoto quickly surmised that electric current must have been running through it. After regaining enough of his strength to stand back up, Makoto thought about it once again. I should have known it was a fake. Just how sick and twisted was the mastermind? My head still feels a little woozy. I should go back to my room and rest today. With that in mind, Makoto walked out of the school store with slow, careful steps. But Makoto didn't know yet. If the escape button really was a fake, it would have been an act of mercy from the mastermind. A small bear-shaped shadow began moving around inside the now empty school store. The shadow, Monokuma, stood before the Mono Mono machine and stared at it silently. But after some time had passed, he began to laugh. A cold, hollow laugh, utterly void of emotion. Looks like I tried to do Monokuma's laugh a little too early there. Despite the fact he was alone, Monokuma began to talk, almost as if he was speaking to someone. Perhaps Monokuma was talking directly to the mastermind controlling him. I only put that in the Mono Mono machine because I thought it would be interesting if one of the last few survivors happened to win it. But with a success rate of 0.000000000, that's probably not enough zeros, but 0.0001, I probably said more then, but whatever. You know, he had barely any chance. I never thought anyone would actually win it. Don't mess with a lucky student. Perhaps I should have expected the ultimate lucky student to overcome such impossible odds. Monokuma started blushing and breathing heavily for no apparent reason. A robot like Monokuma doesn't need to breathe, but because of his technology is super advanced, he can express himself like a living creature. Makoto was chosen through a lottery, and now he's won the escape button through a lottery. This is obviously impossible, right? Is this what a miracle is? Is this all systems go towards escaping? Is something that defies all common sense about to come crashing into my world? Well, I don't really want this at all. I'm starting to enjoy this new sensation. We'll be back into these commercials. Monokuma's internal machinery began running at full capacity, and his facial expressions began changing more smoothly than any humans could. Suddenly, his expression immediately stopped, and he whispered through his speakers, "But is this really good luck? Ho 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 ho! Mo ho 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 ho!" After muttering something so ominous, Monokuma's loud, screeching laughter rang jarringly throughout the room. The situation that was about to unfold contained two conflicting emotions in equal measure: hope and despair. How do you guys like my narration voice? Next day, nighttime, students' dormitories, Makoto's room. Makoto Nagi laid on his. Wait, I feel like that should be lay. Wait, laid on his bed. I don't know, something about that just seems weird. His bed, desperately struggling with the despair and hope churning inside within him. Monokuma had forced the students to watch a DVD earlier that day. Makoto showed a scene that suggested his parents and little sister were in danger, and now he found himself. It could be. And I'm glad to hear you guys love my narration voice, because this episode is going to be a whole lot of me narrating. His sister were in danger, and he found himself determined to leave the school. It seemed the other students were forced to watch shocking videos of their own. Videos so shocking they are now determined to escape the school too. even if it meant sacrificing someone to do it. Yeah, basically, this is a reference. In the first game, there were motivation videos, something that's not present in the second game, even if it meant sacrificing someone to do it. However, it was obvious that these videos were part of Monokuma's trap. As long as a student killed someone, they were allowed to graduate and leave the academy. It seemed that the mastermind controlling Monokuma was hell-bent on making the students kill each other. But right now, Makoto was most worried about Sayaka Masuno, who seemed to be incredibly distressed after watching her DVD. Sayaka wasn't just the ultimate pop sensation. She was also Makoto's classmate when they were students at Blackroot Junior High. Her optimism had been encouraging Makoto these past few days, and he was becoming a similar source of strength for her as well. If nothing else, I at least have to save Sayaka. As soon as Makoto thought that, he suddenly felt a small headache. Was he still reeling from being punched by Mondo the other day, or was this a side effect of being electrocuted by the escape button? As Makoto pondered these things, the pain slowly subsided, and he returned to his determined thoughts of escape. Anyway, we all need to work together, and At that moment, Makoto realized his goal had changed slightly. We all need to? Ideally, it would be best if everyone survived together. However, aside from Sayaka, Makoto had never met the other students before. He didn't know if they could even be trusted in the first place. But at that moment, he trusted them without even an ounce of suspicion. He believed they were worth helping, even at the cost of his own life. Just like Sayaka. Why? The headache struck again, as if all the blood vessels in his brain were being individually sliced open. God, that sounds like hell. Why did I just think that I could trust the others as much as I trust Sayaka? Makoto tried to figure out why his thought process had suddenly changed. Something was wrong. The throbbing pain in his head seemed to synchronize with a strange feeling that something was approaching him. As a ray of light began to form with the dark recesses of his own mind, the doorbell rang. Someone's here? He quickly got out of bed, but that only made the headache worse. With no concern for his safety, Makoto carelessly opened the door to his room and came face to face with Sayaka? I'm really sorry to come by so late. Sayaka? The pain. What are you doing out so late? The moment he saw her face, the pulsating pain in Makoto's head began accelerating. He felt like his world was being torn apart from the inside out. Oh god, he's gonna fail. Sorry to bother you, but something really weird just happened. And Makoto, what's wrong? You don't look so well. Sayaka was pale and had been trembling when she came to Makoto's room, but she seemed surprised to see that his complexion was worse than her own. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just my head. Makoto couldn't finish his sentence. His eyes rolled back into his head as he lost consciousness. Oh, God. Yeah, this part doesn't age well with me. As someone who's lost consciousness and fallen to the floor, I don't appreciate things happening like that again. And Sayaka's beautiful voice let out a scream as she stood over Makoto's body. Oh, God, she killed Makoto. Shit. She was supposed to die. Leon. No, that's not what happened. The next day at the nurse's office. Oh, you're awake. Hey, you're okay? You okay? How many fingers am I holding up? As Makoto regained consciousness, he was greeted by the sight of fingers adorned with long, fake nails being waved in his face. Huh? You're Junko, right? Hey, why do you sound so unsure? I'm a little shocked to hear you say that. Yeah, despite what she said, Junko Enoshima, the ultimate fashionista, was laughing as if she found this all very amusing. Tell me if this actually sounds like Junko to you. Makoto looked around and realized he'd never seen this place before. It looked somewhat like a hospital. 3 beds, including his own, were lined up in the room with various medical instruments laid about. The black ceiling felt strangely oppressive, but as he sat up, Makoto's mind immediately centered on one possibility. Where are we? Do we get rescued? That'd be nice, huh? She replied as she looked away. Junko explained that this was the nurse's office on the first floor of the academy. That Monokuma thing said, I can't bear to see my precious students getting sick, and open this place up this morning. But don't you think it's suspicious? What if all these meds are poison? To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. Makoto remembered his encounter with the escape button and let out a small sigh. So why am I here, Junko? You should thank Sayaka for that. She was here the whole night taking care of you. She was? Junko ignored Makoto's surprise and continued casually talking. But then Taka got all fired up and was like, we should take turns watching over him. I just happened to be on duty when you woke up. Well, and even then, only because Bayaka ditched. Told you, asshole. He's an asshole. I see, thanks. Like I said, you should thank Sayaka. Anyways, how are you feeling? Is everything alright? Makoto thought about it for a moment and remembered what he had been thinking about just before he lost consciousness. This is kind of weird, but actually, it's a really weird question, but what's up? Junko, we've never met each other before, right? Upon hearing this, Junko's eyes widened, but a few seconds later she began to laugh. Huh? Are you for real? That pickup line is like totally played out, you know? Even though she was grinning, a serious look came over her face. Just so you know, you shouldn't expect anything like that from me. I know I look this way, but I take my virtue pretty seriously. No, I mean, I never expected... Well, that's what I figured. It's obvious that you're a total omega male anyway. What the hell? What the hell is an omega male meant to be? Does she mean like an alpha? Oh god, this Junko apparently is dump. We're seeing how some people treat Makoto. Total omega male anyways. And she talk to one another. Although he wondered why Junko was talking to him instead of leaving to the others, Makoto didn't question it. He just wanted to talk to someone, anyone. As long as he interacted with his fellow students, he believed he would learn the truth about what was going on inside his head. 10 minutes later, Junko mostly talked about alpha male. Okay, is she calling him a beta? When she says omega male, I'm actually curious what the hell that means. Because I get alpha, but not a beta, so she just... Alright, I get alpha, but not omegas. 10 minutes later, Junko... I realize I started again, but whatever. Train of thought lost. Junko mostly talked about alpha males and omega males, her time being homeless, and about her past and dreams for the future. The last topic was a lot heavier than the previous ones. Makoto's calm demeanor seemed to cheer her up. She smiled sincerely and said softly, "Thanks, Makoto." Maybe it was a sign of gratitude for listening to her troubles, but she kept that smile as she blurted out something horrifying. In return, I promise I'll do... If I do decide to kill someone, it won't be you. Don't say that, Junko. I just can't believe I just say that. That sounds like a strange... So it's like a beta male? So is it like a beta, or am I just thinking what alpha male means in this case? Don't say scary stuff like that. At least that's what Makoto thought. But the word that came out of his mouth expressed a different sentiment. I see, thanks. But I wouldn't want you to become the black in the first place. Don't ask why they know what a black means, because I think... I mean, I haven't played the first game, I've only seen the first anime, so I don't know why they know what the black means yet. It could be maybe the games and the anime just use a slightly different term of phrase that's mentioned earlier. But I wouldn't want you to become the black in the first place. For some reason, Makoto's felt like murderous words that came out of Junko's mouth seemed like a natural thing for her to say. She seemed very surprised by Makoto's response and quickly blurted out, "Huh? Are you serious? I was just kidding." "Huh? Ah, oh yeah, of course. Sorry for acting so weird. No worries, let's chalk this up to you being woozy from your recovery." She returned to her usual bubbly self, let out a big stretch, and turned to Makoto. "I'm gonna get going now. Make sure you don't get killed before the next person arrives." And if you're seeing her off, Makoto laid back down in the bed and started thinking to himself, "What is this strange feeling?" His dull headache continued as his thoughts began to blur. "I was just talking to Junko, but I feel like I was talking to someone else." Dun dun dun! Who? Who is she? The more he thought, the more he felt like his memories were sinking into a thick swamp. Each throb of pain pulsing in his head felt like a wave on the surface of that swamp. What is this feeling? It felt very unpleasant, as though someone's voice was screaming at him from the inside his head. Makoto tried to organize his thoughts and go over everything that had happened to him, but he was interrupted by the sound of the bell. Unlike the dorm rooms, the nurse's office didn't have a doorbell. The bell that sound that Makoto heard was ringing throughout the entire building. Ahem, testing, mic check, 1, 2, this is a test of the school broadcast system. It was Monokuma's voice. Now that Makoto has finally woken up, please assemble at the gym. Makoto listened to Monokuma's heartless order and got out of bed without complaining. I have to go. He walked one step at a time, in accordance with the rhythm of his throbbing headache. Slowly, he walked forward, not knowing if where he was heading was heaven or hell. The gym. Yeah, sadly we don't get any cutscenes, or at least so far we're not getting any cutscene. We'll just see backgrounds over black text. Like I said, this is going to be a lot of me narrating. The gym. Makoto, are you alright? Sayaka ran over to Makoto as soon as he entered the gym. I never finished this, so I don't know if there actually will be a cutscene later, but maybe it will be fixed later. Yeah, thanks. Sorry about yesterday. I guess I really worried you. Please don't apologize. I'm sorry too. I barged into your room when you weren't feeling well. Now that you mention it, what happened yesterday? Sayaka looked away for a brief moment, but immediately turned back. smiling her pop sensation smile and shook her head. It's nothing. I'll tell you at some other time. Huh? While they were talking, Kiwakataka Ishimaru, I probably butchered Kiyotaka Ishimaru, the ultimate moral compass, stepped forward, pointing an accusatory finger at Makoto. You're late, Makoto. Explain why you were tardy. The other students collectively raised their eyebrows as they were thinking, why is this guy yelling at someone who was sick? However, Makoto just smiled gently and answered him honestly. I didn't feel well, so I was resting in the nurse's office. Can you note that in the daily logbook? I see. That's consistent with my information. If that's the case, then I shall consider this matter settled. The conversation progressed smoothly, and Taka smiled as he kept talking. Haha, I will take full responsibility for recording it. You just focus on recovery. If you ever feel ill, please report to the health committee. Who the hell is the health committee? It seems we need to appoint health committee members after this meeting, though. Taka walked away, mumbling to himself as he opened a daily logbook he found in the academy supply room. Celestia Ludenberg, the ultimate gambler, saw the whole conversation and walked up to Makoto. Despite his unreasonable behavior, you knew exactly what to say to him. Huh? As soon as Celeste said that, it dawned on Makoto. It's true that he didn't feel well and that he had been resting in the nurse's office. But when Taka asked him why he was late, even though he should have already known the reason, Makoto didn't feel annoyed or disappointed at all. It was as if he expected Taka to say that. Makoto felt strange that he accepted Taka's personality so quickly. He couldn't understand why he asked Taka to do something as unnecessary as recording it in the daily logbook in the first place. Why did I say that? It's like I was used to it? His response to Taka's demands came as naturally to him as breathing. Why? Every time he tried to think about it, his headache grew even worse. To answer your question, Magus, because they care about the talent. She's the ultimate gambler. She's got a talent. She's good. Or did you forget about what Showa's talent is? They let her in there, so you really can't question that. Also, we had an ultimate Yakuza, and you want to question the gambler? Sort of think through the pain of his headache. A black and white stuffed animal jumped out from behind the gym's podium and began twirling around as if spoken in cheerful voice. Hey guys, is everyone here? It sounded like he was about to lead the students on a field trip, but not a single one of them had a smile on their faces. What is it this time? Are we going to hijack a cruise ship and run into a gigantic worm? Of course, there was one exception. Yasuhiro Hagakura, the ultimate clairvoyant, still believed their current situation was some kind of planned event. Monokuma just ignored him and continued to arrest the students with his adorable voice. Today I'm going to tell you about our wonderful academy system. System sure sounds like a great word, don't you think? It reeks of danger, just like a bear. I want you to all trample over the death of your friends and grow to have hardened hearts. It's good to be a little naughty. I want you to grow poisonous personalities. After making his nonsensical introduction, Monokuma moved on to the next topic. With this, he began providing a detailed explanation of the most vile system in the school, the class trial. Now, you can't just kill someone. See, this is why I question why they suddenly know what a black is beforehand. Now, you can't just kill someone. You gotta kill someone without anyone else finding out you did it. Monokuma talked about his horrible graduation program with casual indifference. But because a killing hasn't happened yet, his lecture didn't instill any despair in the students. As long as a killing never occurred, there'd be no point in the class trial. But no one could really say that a killing wasn't going to happen. As the students' suspicion began to rise, Monokuma continued explaining the class trial until... Wait, hold on a second. As Monokuma began to explain the executions that would serve as a punishment, one girl stepped forward. Junko? As soon as he saw how angry she was, the rhythm of Makoto's headache began to change slightly. You're freaking insane, you know that? The girl continued to explain angrily. She seemed completely different from the smiling person Makoto saw in the nurse's office. Huh? Was Junko always like that? No, she's different. That's how Junko acts, but... Is that person really Junko? Huh, wait, what am I thinking? As Makoto struggled with his headache and confusion, Monokuma and the girl continued to argue. What are you saying, you're not going to participate in the trial? Only punishment awaits such blasphemy. What punishment? I don't know, throw you in a deep, dark, scary prison or something. Different? That strange feeling he felt was now directed at Monokuma. A prison? No, they aren't that kind. A series of images flashed in Makoto's mind. and at first he thought it was some kind of parade, but he quickly realized that was a mistake. What looked like lights were actually buildings engulfed in flames. The red decorating this scene seemed to have come from human bodies. Despair. That wasn't confined to the Academy, or even Japan. Images of worldwide death and destruction flooded Makoto's brain with every throb of his headache. I've seen this before. Besides the indescribable violence taking place in all these images, there was one thing they had in common. Who are they? They're rampaging terrorists wearing black and white masks were wreaking havoc in these images. They took everything. Money, valuables, lives, families, dignity, the past, the future, and possibly even hope. The masks these terrorists were wearing were perfectly resembled to the face of the stuffed animal arguing with the students before him. Shut the hell up. Say whatever you want. I'm not going to be a part of this. Don't be so selfish. You're the one being selfish. Kill whoever you want. It's got nothing to do with me. The evil standing here before me. I'm trembling with fear, but I won't give in to such evil. It's my style to stick it out and resist till the very end. If you really want to get out of here, you'll have to go through me first. Monokuma swung his arms wildly as he charged the girl with waddling steps, but the girl stomped on the self-proclaimed headmaster of the academy with ease. Ugh. Are you enjoying yourself now? Pinned beneath the girl's foot, Monokuma looked into the girl's cold eyes and calmly asked, Are you? Huh? Violence against Headmaster Monokuma is not allowed. You violated a school regulation. I mean, you attacked her first, so... Didn't you break the rules first? I mean, what do you expect her to do? Not do anything? Exclamation mark! At that moment, a chill ran down Makoto's spine. She's going to get killed. Monokuma's words sounded very threatening to him. I mean, what do you expect him to blow up or something again? It wasn't a prediction or a guess. It was as if he knew the danger Monokuma posed from the start. If this continues, Junko's going to... His mind fully didn't grasp the situation unfolding in front of him. By the time he realized he was about to remember something, he was already running forward. Junko? The impact of his feet combined with the rhythm of his headache, sending his brain and heart into a panic. No, she's different. She's... I invoke the mighty summon spell. Help, to me, godly spirit Ganir! Monokuma wiggled beneath the girl's foot and let out a scream. At that exact moment, Makoto charged at her and screamed out, Mukuro, watch out! Huh? The girl dressed as Junko Enoshima widened her eyes in shock. As if to invade the charging Makoto, she jumped back with agility unheard of in a teenage school girl. And then, right at that moment, countless spears pierced the spot where she had been standing just a split second ago. Explanation for all the students, including the girl, stared wide-eyed at this sudden turn of events. Spears, too many of them to count, had shot out with blinding speed from mechanisms installed on the floor and walls of the gym. However, Makoto was unable to notice this. Huh? Why did I call Junko Mukuro? Mukuro? As that thought entered his mind, a sharp, sudden impact struck his side, followed by intense, deadly pain that ran down his spine and spread throughout his entire body. The spear stabbed into his side, instantly tore his flesh to shreds, and shot out of his back, coated in blood and other bodily fluids. I don't want to know what the other bodily fluids are. At that moment, the black fog that engulfed Makoto's mind was consumed by death itself. His consciousness slowly faded. He remembered everything. Because of that electric jolt and the chemicals compounded from the escape button. Because of that button that he found by chance. Makoto managed to escape. He escaped this hopeless game where he and his fellow students had their memories stolen and were forced to kill each other. Of course, that escape is also what led him to his current life or death predicament. In the end, perhaps he was only able to escape from one despair to fall into another. But at the same time, his actions had an unintended consequence for one person, the girl living a false identity as her beloved little sister, Junko Enoshima. Mukuro Uesabi, the ultimate soldier and a member of Ultimate Despair. Her past, her future, perhaps even her hope itself, are on a path to despair. And so, the curtain falls on Makoto's story for now. From this point, this story is about a certain girl. A girl who's more pitiful than anyone else in this sealed-off academy. A new curtain, along with a new despair, shall now rise. Huh? Time had certainly stopped for Makoto Uesabi. Wasabi. It was as if everything around her had frozen perfectly still. In the past, she was known as the ultimate soldier. She'd experienced this feeling before, during her time with the mercenary group Fenrir. In situations where she was surrounded by hopeless numbers of enemies, within the jungle or in a desert ruin, the charging enemies seemed as though they were frozen in time, which allowed her to claim a decisive victory in all her battles. But this wasn't a battlefield, so why did this familiar sensation activate once again? In order to understand what had happened, Mukuro slowly tried to assess the current situation from within this frozen world. Junko and Mukuro were both children of despair, but Junko Anishima, the true ultimate despair, harbors a far deeper darkness within her. Though their last names are different, Mukuro is Junko's older sister, connected by the bonds of blood. She cooperated with Junko's hopeless plan and impersonated her under the pretense of participating in the killing game along with her classmates. According to the plan, Mukuro was supposed to be opposed Monokuma, who her sister was controlling, and be locked in a dungeon as punishment. Isolated from the others, she would then escape the dungeon and perform various acts. I don't know why I struggle with that word. Intended to deprive the students of hope. That was the role she had been assigned. She never actually lived that role. When Makoto succumbed to his headache, Junko ordered her to see if the shock had caused him to remember anything that would make him a liability. He woke up as she was tending to him, so she made small talk with him, but she didn't notice any change in his behavior. Until this point, she was certain there wouldn't be any problems. Nothing could possibly go wrong. She stomped on Monokuma's like her sister ordered her to do, and flawlessly spoke the line she was taught to memorize. Afterward, she would fall through a trapdoor into the dungeon, and remain isolated from the other students. That was her role. She hadn't done anything wrong. That was not the... Magus, even twins and triplets can be older. Think about it. One has to come first, right? So that's just implying that Mukuro came a little bit earlier than Junko, or came a little bit before. So yes, technically, it's still proper to say Mukuro is the older sister. The thing with twins means that twins, triplets, quadruplets, they can still be older. There's always one that comes first. They don't come at the same time, I guess. This has been your lesson in... I don't know what to describe that. But yeah. There was no problems. There was no problems. She repeated that to herself over and over like a silent prayer. But in that frozen moment of time, what she saw was not a trapdoor, but countless spears. One of them had skewered Makoto through his side. Why? Makoto, why are there spears? Got near? I would have died if I hadn't moved. Did Junko mess up the plan? No, Junko would never mess up. Yeah, if you're wondering, basically, because, well, Mukuro was planned to be put in the dungeon originally, Junko decided to change the plan on her. You know this if this is you played the first game. I'm not gonna... This might be an alternate title for the first game, but yes, there are spoilers. I really shouldn't have mentioned that already. Was she trying to kill me? Me? Makoto saved me. Why? Why did he say my name? Did his memories come back? Did I not realize that? Did I make a mistake? Is that why Junko got angry? Is this punishment? Is it my fault? Junko tried to kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Slowly, time came back to her world. Mukuro could feel her face turning pale as she slowly looked towards Makoto. The student's scream rang throughout the gym. Sayaka was probably the first to scream. And who screamed first didn't matter to Mukuro. It was probably Sayaka. Makoto, why? Makoto was the ultimate lucky student. He had been her classmate for the past 2 years, and now he was a sacrifice to despair. Not long ago, he had given her an answer of some sorts during their conversation in the nurse's office. He was just a pawn in the plan his sister had devised, but now a feeling of doubt began forming in Mukuro's mind. What did I want from Makoto? As her heart churned restlessly, she continued to think. In return, I promise if I do decide to kill someone, it won't be you. Was I impersonating Junko then? Or did I really mean that? When did I start feeling this doubt? Just now, the moment he saved me, or when we spoke in the nurse's office earlier, or when I first confronted him about this killing game before his memories returned. Or was it before even that? Mukuro stood there, confused and overwhelmed, as Makoto slowly opened his eyes, the spear still impaling him through his side. Mukuro. Makoto, are you okay? Mukuro was no longer impersonating the ultimate fashionista. Looking up from the floor of the gym, Makoto asked, "Why are you dressed up like Junko?" He was smiling. Maybe he couldn't feel the pain anymore, or maybe he was being affected by something else. But regardless, Makoto ignored the fact that he was dying, just to give Mukuro his warm smile. I'm glad you're safe, Mukuro." As soon as she heard Makoto's weak, fading voice, something inside Mukuro snapped. From within the shell of despair she had built up, intense emotion began flowing out. No, this is all wrong. She couldn't hold back that emotion any longer. No. And for the first time in her entire life, Mukuro unleashed a scream into the world. As Mukuro fell to her knees and clutched her head, a small shadow started walking towards her back. The stuffed animal that had been under her foot, Monokuma, his claws were extended. He was no longer walking with his usual waddle. Instead, he moved like a beast, silently stalking its prey as he slowly advanced within his target's blind spot. As he inched closer to Mukuro, Monokuma raised his razor-sharp claws, crouched on his haunches, and suddenly leapt towards the back of her neck. However, just before those claws could reach the paralyzed Mukuro, a dark shadow moved in from the side and swatted those claws away with one blow. His lunge deflected. Monokuma was sent flying through the air, spinning wildly before crashing into the wall. Damn you. What are you trying to do? Sakura Ogami, ultimate martial artist, had just prevented another tragedy. She stood before Monokuma and addressed him in a loud, booming voice. Not only did you attempt to kill Junko for violating school regulations, you even attacked Makoto, who had nothing to do with this. You plan to continue acting in such a savage manner. There is no reason for us to play along with your game. Byakuya Torigami, the ultimate asshole, the ultimate athletic prodigy, smirked condescendingly at Sakura. Fool, one could say you now violated school regulations with your senseless actions. He looked as if he honestly did not care if his fellow students lived or died at all. Seriously, asshole! I will say the biggest weak point in Danganropa 1, no one killed this guy. Well, she merely deflected the headmaster's attack just now, so I do not think that it truly counts as an act of violence. Like Byakuya, Celeste seemed unfazed as she chided him over his words. However, the banter between the two was enough to stir the stunned students to action. Makoto! Sayaka was the first to run towards Makoto, who lay bleeding from his stomach. But Monokuma stopped her, shouting in a voice that seemed completely out of character. Be careful, don't get too close to those two. Huh? Startled by Monokuma's desperate tone, Sayaka and the others stopped moving almost instinctively. Again, nobody killed him! He was an asshole. He was the perfect person to kill. But because he was the rival character from the first game, like Nagito, and they didn't decide the rival character didn't need to die, he never got killed. Monokuma walked towards by Monokuma's desperate tone, Sayaka and the others stopped moving almost I realized I read that, but I kind of losing my place in the dialogue when I read the chat. The students looked around at each other. Instead of his usual playful grin, gate. Monokuma walked towards them with deliberate, methodical steps. And then he suddenly blurted out something that took everyone, including Mukuro Uesabi, by surprise. I'm sure you're probably confused by this sudden turn of events, but I want you guys to work together. Question mark? As Mukuro slowly turned her head towards Monokuma, he pointed at her and yelled, Mukuro Uesabi and her accomplice Makoto Negi are the terrorists responsible for locking you all inside the academy. Once again, time stopped for Mukuro, but this time she wasn't the only one affected. Everyone seemed to be frozen in shock. After a few seconds of silence, Ayo Asahina, the ultimate swimming pro, spoke first. Huh? You're kidding, right? I mean, Makoto is a terrorist? That's impossible. Yeah, that really is impossible. And who's Mukuro, anyway? I mean, that's Junko. Monokuma began slowly explaining to Ayo. The real Junko must have been imprisoned somewhere in this school. Worst case scenario, she might be killed. Mukuro must have researched which one of you would be the easiest for her to impersonate and hid among you all by pretending to be her. She was probably trying to make sure the killing game went smoothly. Suddenly, Monokuma's hands and feet began jerking an awkward motion as if he looked at the other students and introduced himself. I'm Beseki Matarati, the ultimate hacker. I'm your upperclassman. I hacked in the academy from the outside, and I was finally able to take control of Monokuma's body just a little while ago. Take control? From who? From the head of the terrorist organization that's controlling this robot from the outside. What? What are you saying, Junko? Mukuro trembled as she heard the words coming out of Monokuma's mouth. For a brief moment, she clung to the hope that her sister wasn't trying to kill her. But as soon as that hope was born, it was immediately consumed by despair. Junko had the power to transform this hope into despair. She would never let anyone hack her that easily. There was only one explanation. Junko Enoshima was pretending to be someone named Beseki in order to frame Mukuro and Makoto. Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything. Yes, there's no actual person named the Ultimate Hacker. Sadly, because that would have been amazing with the talent. So yeah, leaves hope he never apparently let an Ultimate Hacker in. It was though Junko was using Mukuro's survival as a branching path to lead the students to a different despair. Monokuma continued talking, telling the students more lies designed to prod them to action. On your first day at Hope's Peak Academy, you guys were exposed to sleeping gas, knocked unconscious, and taken hostage. Mukuro and Makoto are the only operatives that the terrorists sent inside the school. That means they probably know how to escape from here. And then Monokuma turned to face Mukuro. Mukuro Musabi was a member of the mercenary group called Fenrir. She's a wanted criminal who killed over 10 people associated with the school. So don't get soft and thinking we capture her alive. In fact, that's exactly what the cops told me. So the moment I saw an opening, I tried hacking the trap they set and tried to kill her. But what about Makoto? Monokuma gave a cold, emotionless answer to Sayaka's question. My guess is that a measly little ultimate lucky student didn't stand a chance in defying a group like Fenrir. He was probably threatened and forced to cooperate before you entered the school. Or judging from his earlier actions, maybe Mukuro seduced him. Sayaka's face went pale when she heard that answer, and she immediately stopped talking. Mukuro raised her head and shouted, "You're wrong. Makoto isn't a terrorist. You all have to believe me." The whole gym fell silent, and then, as if he was speaking for everyone there, Taka stepped forward and nervously asked, "Hold on, what do you mean Makoto isn't a terrorist?" "It sounds like you're saying there's no doubt that you, in fact, are a terrorist. I ask that you correct yourself at once and say, we are not terrorists." Celeste began expressing her own doubts as well. It's strange. Does it not seem odd that she is so protective of someone we all just met a few days ago? Mukuro stood in silence. The other students' faces began to fill with suspicion and doubt as they realized they weren't looking at the real Junko Enoshima. Byakuya pushed up his glasses and began coldly pointing out what seemed out of place to him. I heard that fool Makoto, or whatever his name is, call you Mukuro instead of Junko. How would Makoto know that your name is really Mukuro if he just met you not that long ago? I also heard of Fenrir, continued Byakuya. As I recall, its members have a tattoo somewhere on their body. Instinctively, Byakuya's words put Mukuro in a calm state of mind. In hostile situations, her defense reflexes are, as the ultimate soldier, often manifest themselves. Mukuro's tattoo was on the back of her right hand. She wondered how she could hide this from the others, since without calling attention to it. But in the end, this concern was in vain. If the police records are true, she should have a tattoo on the back of her right hand. As Monokuma freely divulged that information. "Alright," cried Taka, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Show us the back of your right hand and prove your innocence." Monokuma dispensed another unnecessary remark. Make sure you look real close. She might have covered up with foundation." "Found what?" Junko had ordered Mukuro to hide her tattoo with foundation, so Monokuma's information was entirely true. There was nothing Mukuro could do except stay quiet. However, she wasn't staying quiet because her identity was about to be exposed. She was struck by the realization that her sister was completely serious about pinning this on her. "Why the hesitation?" shouted the foolishly honest Taka. "As my classmate, I have complete faith in you." From behind him, Ifui Yamada, the ultimate fanfic creator, muttered to himself as cold sweat ran down his cheeks. "Well, look at that. I guess this is what they call a checkmate, huh? Why don't you just fess up already, you fucking bastard?" In contrast to Ifumi, Mondo Owada, the ultimate biker gang leader, was royally pissed. However, there were some students who were busy questioning Monokuma instead of Mukuro. "Hey, you're not coming to save us," shouted Leon Owada, the ultimate baseball star. "You should hurry up and charge in here already." Monokuma looked at Leon and shook his head softly. "The police can't help you right now. Not only are you guys hostages, it's possible that the entire school has been rigged with explosives and poisonous gas. I hacked into this Monokuma robot to investigate that for myself." "And then what about everyone on that DVD? What about everyone outside the school? The memory?" asked Sayaka. The memory of the DVD she was forced to watch yesterday still weighed heavily on her mind, but Monokuma didn't have a clear answer. I don't know anything about any DVDs. That is a lie. But there are definitely terrorists causing havoc out there. Law enforcement around the world is in shambles, trying to deal with this. That's impossible, Saika muttered and collapsed up to her knees. Saika! Next to her, Hiro Fugisaki, the ultimate programmer, was unsure about what she should do. Note, that isn't a she. Despite what the dialogue, because what happened with Fuyuhiro, what happened with this kid, he was not revealed to be a guy until after the second trial. So despite what this says, this is a guy. I am not bringing that up anymore. Behind her, two other girls stood silently. The first was Toko Fuwaga, the ultimate writing prodigy. She seemed to be trying very hard not to look at Makoto as he lay bleeding. The other was a quiet girl who hadn't talked about herself much, named Kyoko Kirigiri. Unlike Toko, Kyoko was watching everything intently, as if she was studying the scene of a crime. From Makoto's breathing patterns to subtle changes in Mukuro's facial expression, nothing was escaping her attention. Suddenly, Toko began nervously talking to Sakura. So anyway, let's just say that Mukuro woman, or whoever over there, is a terrorist. Hurry up and beat her to death or something. We don't know that yet, said Sakura. My fits do not met out justice based on simple speculation. Sakura tried to get near Makoto to examine his wounds, but Monokuma stood in her way, shouting, "Don't come any closer!" This means Mukuro was the only one who could get close to Makoto. She had ended countless lives on the battlefield, and she knew from experience, if she didn't treat Makoto's wounds, he would die. His wounds were not immediately fatal, but if he continued to losing blood, he would eventually slip into shock and die shortly thereafter. So yes, Makoto is not dead. Despite this killing Mukuro in canon, he survives. Truly, he is an ultimate lucky student. Please, you need to treat Makoto first. Absolutely not, said Ryuaka, harshly interrupting Mukuro. Tying yourself up and examine the back of your right hand. Tying you up and examining the back of your right hand. I don't know why I read that wrong. Your right hand is our first priority. Hey! Makoto's in danger. I'm sorry, I know you think she's a terrorist, but dying, dude. Save him, you ultimate asshole! And that's not the time for that, said Ayo as she cast a worried glance at Makoto. She was still having trouble understanding the situation, and hadn't decided if Makoto was suspicious or not. Ryuaka was about to snap back at her, but Mukuro's action stunned him into silence. She took a deep breath, and then Mukuro removed the blonde wig from her head, where there was two long blonde pigtails only for a moment before. There was now short black hair. She cleared her face of all emotion, and when she spoke, her voice ran throughout the gym. I'm not Junko Enoshima. My name is Mukuro Iwasabi. How many times have I said that name wrong already? The student stared wide-eyed at her open confession. All she did was remove her wig and clear her emotions. But in doing so, the person the students had recognized as Junko Enoshima vanished from their sight. The terrorist that had taken her place continued to speak in a calm, stoic tone. I helped lock everyone inside this academy. The confession on a seaside cliff moment has finally arrived, Hifumi blurted out. What wigs are against school regulation? Mukuro shouted Taka. Not the time, Taka. As if stirred by their cries of excitement, the other students... That was excitement? Other students began clamoring around among themselves. Yes, hero. So Makoto's wounds are, like, real? Does that mean stuff about terrorists and whatever is all real too? So everything that's happened these past few days wasn't a bunch of staged events? Yeah, I gotta agree with Leon here. As the reality of the situation began dawning on Yasuhiro, all Leon could say to him was, "Shut the hell up." Ryuaka just remained calm and addressed Mukuro in a condescending manner. What does your group want? If you were after money, you would have already tried to negotiate with me. Of course, I'd rather let them die than surrender to your ransom demands. Our purpose is to fill the world with despair. Ryuaka scoffed at this notion and began speaking once again. I see, Monokuma said something similar. So that ideology is what fuels your terrorism. It's true, if you did anything to me, you would have certainly filled the world with despair. Please, someone kill him! But obviously that would be impossible for you. Ayo couldn't believe what Ryuaka was saying, and frowned as she muttered, How self-centered can you be? Honestly, I think he gives Vegeta a run for being self-centered. After confirming that Ryuaka had no more questions for her, Mukuro looked at Makoto, whose breathing had slowed, and let her voice show some emotion. But Makoto has nothing to do with this. You can't believe what Monokuma says. What did you say, bitch? Shouted Mondo. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're a terrorist, just like Monokuma said. Mukuro looked away from Mondo and continued speaking. That's true, but Makoto isn't involved at all. Celeste coldly brushed her objection aside. I do not think trying to protect him will do you any good. After all, we all heard Makoto call you by your real name. She had no more words. There was nothing she could say to protect Makoto. Even though Makoto was truly innocent. Though Mukuro was this ultimate soldier, her powers were largely limited to battle. Even a normal high school student could outwit her when it comes to debate and negotiations. If she were the ultimate negotiator, she might be able to convince them that their memories had really been erased. But in her current situation, if she tried to bring up their memory loss, they would think it was a desperate excuse. Even Mukuro knew that. But even if she didn't know what to say, she still knew what to do. Right now, we need to treat Makoto first. And then she started walking towards Makoto as if nothing had happened. To the others, it seemed like Mukuro had decided to abruptly change the subject. Hold it, we will immediately take Makoto to the nurse's office for treatment. However, we must tie you up. This was Sakura's honest demand. But there was no way Mukuro could accept it. If she was separated from Makoto, there'd be no telling what Monokuma would do to him. And between Mondo's hot temper and Rueka's cold heart, Makoto could easily sustain further injuries under the pretense of interrogation. Furthermore, among these students, Mukuro knew she was the only one who had experienced treating wounds due to her time with Fenrir. After mulling that over, she narrowed her eyes and went silent. Her mind was made up. She was determined to fight her way out of here and escape with Makoto. I apologize, but I need you to fall asleep right now. As she said that, Sakura instantly positioned herself behind Mukuro. She was completely within her blind spot. To a normal person, it would seem like Sakura had suddenly vanished. After moving faster than any human being could see, Sakura's equally fast hands launched a blow towards the back of Mukuro's neck. However, sorry Sakura, but I need to get out of here. Mukuro parried Sakura's fist with a spinning roundhouse kick. Ugh. Sakura raised an eyebrow at the unexpected counterattack. See, this is why I say it's better for them to super high school, because yes, even the ultimate martial artist can get beat. Mukuro tried to use the momentum of her kick to sweep Sakura's feet from under her. However, Sakura dodged and instinctively struck back against Mukuro's pivot leg. But Mukuro was faster and jumped up and aiming a tornado kick at Sakura's chin. Sakura deflected the attack with one arm, and then both combatants leaped backwards, glared, and charged simultaneously. Every blow they dealt was parried and countered by the other, and though they were both unarmed, the sounds of their battle echoed throughout the gym. It was like a typhoon that had been pressed to the side of the car and set loose inside the gym. The other students were powerless to stop them. All they could do was stare at the breathtaking dance of death unfolding before them. After 10 minutes had passed, sounds of one final impact rang throughout the gym. The two warriors leapt back once again and breathed heavily as they stared at each other. Damn, Makoto's gotta be really sturdy if he hasn't bled out yet from this damn fight. My mistake, though it's only been a few days. I cannot believe I did not know such an impressive fighter was hiding among us. In addition to the surprise Sakura felt, there was a battle had left her in unrise. Mukuro, on the other hand, looked down at her arm. Confirmed it had been wounded during the battle, and thought to herself, she's strong. I don't think Sakura is even taking this seriously right now. Despite being constantly surrounded by firearms, blades, traps, and explosives during her time with Fenrir, this was the first time she had ever been wounded. Mukuro was powerless before the might of a woman known as ultimate martial artist, and the strongest woman in the world. Just as I thought, I can't beat Sakura with my bare hands alone. If she had been directly ordered to kill Sakura, Mukuro would have opted to either snipe her from a distance or poison her. That's... I'm not going to say anything about Sakura and poison. At this close range, she would need an assault rifle just to stand a fighting chance. I don't have time for this. She looked at Makoto and confirmed that his breathing had grown even shallower. Seriously! How has he not bled out yet? He should be dead! He's gotta be a lucky student. I need to hurry. But at that moment, she had no one to turn to for help. Suddenly, Mukuro had an idea. It was true that getting an ally in this situation was impossible. However, she could still turn one person into her enemy's enemy. Mukuro took a deep breath before she charged at Sakura. Then she immediately feigned and charged at a different girl. Kyoko, who had been cowering in fear from the battle between Sakura and Mukuro in the corner of the gym. This is bad. Sakura was caught off guard and tried to run after her, but Mukuro was one step ahead and reached Toko first. Why me? I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. Mukuro jabbed Toko in her solar plexus and she fell into her arms. Taka and Ayo yelled out in shock. This is bad. She plans to use Toko as a hostage. Toko! In contrast to their shocked faces, Ryaka just snickered and coldly remarked, "You fool, you really think we care if you take someone we just met a few days ago as your hostage?" Mukuro just softly glanced at Ryaka and replied, "You didn't meet her a few days ago. What did you say? You met her 2 years ago." Question mark? Ryaka scowled, and Mukuro ignored him and held her bloody arm in front of Toko's face. And then she yelled into her ears, "Wake up, Genocider Show. I know it says Jack. The character's actual name is Show. This is just a bad translation." Exclamation mark. Question mark. It seems so random and out of place. Why would Mukuro mention the name of a notorious serial killer right now? The students looked at each other with confusion when suddenly, Toko, who had been groaning in pain, suddenly kicked off the floor of the gym with renewed vigor. She leapt in the air much higher than any normal human would have been able to. While hovering several meters in midair, Toko twirled faster than a professional figure skater. This caused her skirt to flutter, revealing multiple pairs of sparkling scissors. Countless tally marks were scratched into her legs, like a kill count. Oh my god! Toko's dad must be Victor's ass! A kill count carved into a fighter jet. Tell me if anyone gets that reference. If not for this situation, Toko's glamorous jumps and spins would have been a sight to behold. The girl formerly known as Toko Fukage cackled wildly with her red eyes sparkling as her absurdly long tongue flopped out of her mouth. "You called for me, and so I appear. I got a murder. IOU for you. YOU." Sorry, let the Joker laugh out. Toko? The situation had changed so drastically that even Sayaka, who was silent until now, spoke up. God, I was wondering what happened to her. Hey, you flash in the pan? Don't treat Genocider Show like that depressing little four eyes. That dirty girl doesn't bathe herself at all, so I gotta 5 times the effort to rub myself down in the shower. Eek! Toko's sudden change in personality sent the students clamoring among themselves. Hey, what the hell does that mean? Monokuma just shook his head. There are some things even I don't understand. The students continued to panic at the strange turn of events. Toko, now calling herself Genocider Show, took out a set of scissors from under her skirt and snipped them with glee as she looked around the gym. Huh? Man, it's been a while since I got to stretch my legs. So, what were you guys gonna do at the gym while I was snoozing away? Have an orgy? Oh god, Show! I understand, I totally understand. You guys need to cut up your clothes so you can feel even naughtier. Yeah, right, why the hell would I do that for you dumbasses? My scissors only meant for cuting the supple, tender flesh of adorable boys. Genocider Show was causing a ruckus, but when she saw Makoto laying on the floor, she tilted her head once again. Huh, Big Mac, you're like totally about to die. What's the deal? Did the world fill with so much despair that you all came here to commit mass suicide? That's so hot, but why are you starting without me? Toko, get a hold of yourself. Genocider Show ignored Io and let her emotions run unchecked, jumping and dancing with excitement as she held her scissors. Ah, jeez, I want to stab Big Mac's side myself. The spot right here where the ribs are kind of showing already. He's not even screaming right now, though. What does that mean? Oh well, maybe I can just go and get used to this feeling of alienation instead. Ha 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 ha! I have no idea what's going on anymore, shouted Yasuhiro. You had an idea? This is another thing. I wish someone killed this guy. He's so useless. This is all the alien's fault. Yasuhiro buried his head into his arms, but no one was paying attention to him. The student's attention was entirely focused on Genocider Show. Using that to her advantage, Mukuro began sneaking over to Makoto. As she cautiously picked him up, she confirmed that his body temperature was starting to decrease. I can still make it there in time. Though she was carrying another person, Mukuro managed to soften the sound of her steps as she ran for the gym doors. By the time the students heard Mukuro open the door, it was already too late. She had managed to escape the gym with Makoto. However, not everyone was unaware of what Mukuro was doing. Monokuma saw her movements out of the corner of his eye, but chose not to tell the students. And one other person, Kyoko Kirigiri. She saw Mukuro carry Makoto away, but did not inform the others, as she watched them leave in silence. As everyone wrestled with their own personal thoughts and speculations, Hope's Peak Academy began walking towards a completely different chaos. And I'm sorry, I need 1 sec. I damn need water after about an hour, a little more than an hour of just pure narration. I need a damn drink. Dry thoughts are not fun. With Makoto on her back, Mukuro took several trophies from the gym entrance hall, and after passing through the door leading to the hallway, she jammed the trophies between the door handles. Though Sakura could easily destroy these makeshift locks, they would buy Mukuro a few extra seconds. Then Mukuro started running to the nurse's office, the place she last spoke to Makoto. Everything necessary for performing first aid could be found there. Her little sister was her enemy. Her fellow Ultimate students were her enemy. Her only ally right now was Makoto, who was on the verge of death. Mukuro knew that even she wasn't her own ally right now. Wait, how does that work? How can you not be your own ally? Missed all this chaos, missed her sister's betrayal, and nearly being killed. She believed she was the only one who truly understood her little sister. That's why she felt like she had to protect her. That's right. You didn't do anything wrong, Junko. Oh, that is a lie. She's done a whole lot wrong. You just wanted to feel despair. That's all, right? Because you love me. That's why you wanted to kill me. You were just trying to feel despair, right? I'm sorry. I failed to bring you despair. I really want to know why she's never just shot her sister and killed her. Because Mukuro really does not have a good situation with her sister. But at the same time, she wondered, if she saved Makoto and betrays her sister by disrupting her plans, wouldn't that fill her with an even stronger despair? Wouldn't that make her happy? But betray Junko? What should I do? Betray your sister! She's already betrayed you! Mukuro closed her eyes and listened to Makoto's weak breaths. What should I do, Makoto? On a battlefield where all you need to do is kill and survive, Mukuro was invincible. She could express all her emotions and fully immerse herself in becoming a perfect killing machine. But on this twisted battlefield of daily high school life, she could no longer keep her emotions in check, especially around her little sister. Mukuro, the ultimate soldier, was beginning to question being an ultimate despair. The impulses of a normal high school girl inside her were starting to affect her state of mind. Even so, the poor girl continued to run throughout the dark hallways, clinging to this conflict within herself. She was now walking towards a narrow, hair-thin path between the hope of Makoto Naegi and the despair of Junko and Ashima. Meanwhile, everyone still in the gym was left in a state of complete confusion. Toko was famous for being a prolific author, but even though she came across unsociable and depressing, her mind-blowing transformation seemed to have just tossed all that aside. Toko is genocide or show? Sayaka trembled with fear as Sho tilted her head and stuck out her long tongue. Huh? What's with this reception, you guys? You guys didn't know who I was? Have I been found out, or have you known all along? And why was the Sultan Samurai dressed like that? That outfit did not look good on her at all. The Sultan Samurai was probably referring to Mukuro, which means Toko already knew Mukuro in advance. Confronted by that shocking truth, the students had no idea where to begin talking. So many things were clearly wrong by this point. But there were a few students, such as Ryaka and Kyoko, who opted to remain calm and observe the situation. Alright, someone better spell it. Who gave Makoto an extra mouth to feed? I don't care if you want to stab him or slice him, but I can't forgive whoever put that ugly-ass hole in Big Mac's side. Toko, no, genocide or show, spun her scissors in her hands. As she spoke, her emotions and facial expressions constantly changed. Even without the threat of her scissors, she exuded an aura of danger that made her unapproachable. The flank steak of a young boy like Macaroon is like a bluebird that's gonna pop out a golden egg. If you would have let me handle it, I would have killed him so good that even Teely and... I have no idea what the hell she's trying to say there, or who she's even talking about. Teely, T-Y-L, and me? What the fuck? The poor Makutie's heart and soul have been stomped on by such a sloppy kill. That actually sounds pretty exciting too, but I decline. Toko, you're not making any sense, screamed Io. What in the world happened to you? Genocide show answered by pointing her scissors at Io. What happened to me? I got bored, that's what. That sourpuss locked me up for a few days, but when she went unconscious, I thought I'd finally get to do my thing. But I woke up for all this. My cootie soaked with blood, and I got no clue what's going on. It's so damn confusing, all I can do is laugh. No one seemed to get a straight answer out of Sho, so Hifumi made a timid remark. I've dealt with girls like this in my 2D dating games, but this doesn't even compare. It's like there's an SSS level to clear her. I can't believe you're thinking about her as someone is worth clearing, mumbled Leon. It was clear that things were going nowhere. If she were responding to everyone else's expectations, Sakura stepped forward. she might be in the throes of confusion. I should try to restrain her for now. As soon as she heard that, Genocide Show stopped moving, stuck out her lizard-like tongue, and grinned wickedly. Oh, what's up? Are you really gonna fight me, Battle Ogre? Too bad. My lovely scissors are only for cutting through adorable boys. Woman should just stay home. I won't taint my scissors with your filthy blood. Sakura replied, it seems my words were useless on you. Sakura entered a fighter stance, determined to restrain Sho. But Sho knew she wouldn't win in a straight fight and opted a strange stance of her own. In a normal fight, Sho would obviously lose to the Ogre, but if Sho focused on dodging attacks, the outcome of the fight would be hard to foresee. Of course, Genocider Sho's physical abilities were only obvious to a few students in the first place. The two women exchanged hostile stares as the other students gulped nervously and watched. Except for one person. Kyoko was watching something else. She was watching Monokuma, who was in the corner of the gym, unmoving as the white noise emitted from his speakers. He'd stopped moving the moment everyone's attention focused on Sakura and Kyoko. It's possible that Madarade's hacking had been disrupted, but an infinite number of other possibilities were also swirling around in Kyoko's mind. She brushed back her hair with a gloved hand and continued to watch. Though she couldn't fully remember her talent, the actions she would take in right now were fueled by pure instinct. The strange situation that kept occurring in front of her was shaking her to her very core. Her mind worked diligently to scoop up countless amounts of information from her very vast sea of memories. As they were synchronizing with the synapses firing in her brain, Sakura and Toko kicked off the ground at the same time, and an intense impact ran throughout the gym. Thanks to the heated battle that was unfolding in the gymnasium, Mikuro Usabi was able to buy more time than she had imagined. As soon as she entered the nurse's office, she rummaged around for medical supplies and did what she could to stop the bleeding. Though still quite shallow, Makoto's breathing slowly stabilized. Mukuro let out a little sigh of relief. However, even though she was somehow able to stop the bleeding, she wasn't out of the woods yet. Miraculously enough, it seemed like none of Makoto's major arteries or organs were damaged. Perhaps this was thanks to his ultimate luck? Yes! If he survived that long, not only is the kid sturdy like Nagito, who, as we saw, took a lot to kill, the guy is lucky as hell. Never say luck is not a talent. Maybe he wasn't actually all that lucky. After all, the only sort of medical treatment he could hope for was partial at best. Mokuro couldn't decide. If only I could do a blood transfusion. The nurse's office should have had several blood packs for transfusions. Mokuro suspected that Makoto's blood type might be written in his e-handbook, but she reached over to search his pockets. Haha, I see you're reaching for a sleeping boy's clothes. What in the world is about to happen next? Our thoughts can keep playing, but you kids better press the B button, okay? Woo-hoo-hoo! Exclamation mark. Mukuro turned towards the familiar voice and saw Monokuma standing before her. You're all alone with Makoto right now. Just think of me as a cute wild animal and let your lust lead the way. As the headmaster, I must prevent any illicit sexual relations. The physical education class are just fine, Missy. I have no reason. If you looked just like the one that was at the gym, it was clearly a different Monokuma. Multiple Monokumas had been placed throughout the entire academy, so it wasn't a stretch for him to suddenly appear out of nowhere. Regardless, the same person was controlling all of them. Mokuro had been wary of Monokuma attacking her while she was treating Makoto's wounds, but his appearance at this particular moment seemed to take her by surprise. Junko? Asked Mokuro cautiously. Monokuma tilted his head along with his entire upper body instinctively. Junko, who's that? Junko? I've never heard of that country before. No more jokes. Answer me, Junko. You were planning to kill me earlier, right? Junko this, and Junko that. What's your problem? I'm telling you, I'm Monokuma. You must be a big disappointment if you can't even remember something like that. You're not just a disappointment as a person. You're a disappointment as a sister, too. You're too skinny, your brain is nothing but muscles, and your personality is unbearable. Oh, God. The bear hugs her back, and we don't even have Teddy anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, said Mokuro. She didn't need to apologize, but hearing her little sister call her a disappointment yet again was enough to make the ultimate soldier weep. Well, what the? You know, I'm probably... This is not something sisters should do, but I really have to question why the hell has Mokuro never beat the crap out of her sister? Monokuma ignored her and her current situation, climbing on top of Makoto's barely breathing body and began poking his cheeks. So what are you going to do with Makoto now? I'm really interested in human mating habits, you know? What are you? Asked Mokuro before trailing off. Monokuma lowered his voice and began whispering into her ear. Ooh. Makoto's a pretty nice guy, huh? He even sacrificed himself to save you. He's so generous that it's actually hopeless. He's not dead yet, insisted Mukuro. Despite her firm tone, she couldn't hide the fear lingering in her voice. That's the most disappointing thing about you. You can't even say, I won't let him die. I won't let him die, Junko. Mukuro could barely get a word in as Monokuma's erupted into he continued to torment her. That's if you could do that. Too bad. No regrets. See you tomorrow. Is this all because Makoto was the first person to smile at you? You disappointing, depressing, unladylike, inhuman killing machine. Despite denying that he was Junko, Monokuma began speaking at length about Mukuro's past. Mongus, sometimes you miss the point of what I'm saying. I was making a pun there and reminding you of all the character that was known for his unbearable puns. And yes, I just did too. This contradiction was very much like Junko. When Mukuro was so shaken, all she could do was watch the bear prattle on and on. Only the fit survive in this world. The only thing that a kind-hearted person can do is die, you know? In spirit, you're gonna watch Makoto die really soon. He won't die. Mukuro's tone of voice had become irregular ever since she took off her Junko wig. Aside from her conversation with Makoto, everything she said as Junko was from a script that her sister had written. But now, there was no script for Mukuro to rely on anymore. Mukuro was treating Monokuma like she would treat her own sister. If the other students saw her acting so weak, they would never believe she was the same person who fought soccer in the gym. Seriously, why the hell does Mukuro never... Like, this is the same girl who has stopped her sister from trying to kill her. Minus the one time in DR1. But please note, that was probably because she wasn't expecting it. And not just that, if anyone from her mercenary past see her now, her stark change in attitude might make them think she was someone else entirely. Monokuma continued to rail against Mukuro. No, he's gonna die. I know it's sad, but you just have to face the facts. Monokuma wiggled his limbs and danced around, then pointed right at Mukuro's face. Because Makoto is gonna die by your hands. Huh? In fighting among the terrorists. The big bad terrorist silences the weak-willed Makoto before he can leak any information. Doesn't that happen all the time? In the end, all the desperate things you said in the gym turned out to be lies you just told to escape. Mukuro frowned at Monokuma. You can't do that, Junko. I won't let you do that. She blurted out those words in a trembling voice. Mukuro was gripped with confusion about what she had just said. Am I defying Junko right now? Please! Do so! Why? It was a strange feeling. To Mukuro, it was like she was standing on the edge of a tall building and imagining what would happen if she jumped. A destructive feeling akin to holding a friend's baby and wondering what would happen. Oh god, no. No, do not put that image. Man, my niece is going to be born in a few months. So, before she knew it, fear and anxiety had suddenly taken control of Mukuro's heart. As a member of Fenrir, as an ultimate despair, Mukuro had killed innumerable people, and she had live grenades before. She descended from the sky in a parachute as an anti-aircraft weapon fired all around her. Her heart would never waver on the battlefield, but now it felt like it could collapse any second. Monokuma, however, was as stable as a tree and tilted his head to the side. Huh? Weren't you listening to my story? I'm not the one who's going to kill Makoto. You are. What are you saying, Junko? Makoto began giving a strange explanation to a very confused Mukuro. Do you know what the suspension bridge effect really means? It means you push the person you love off a bridge and they'll be yours for eternity. I haven't heard that at all. Life doesn't always follow your textbooks say. It's sad, but that's what love is. His words made no sense, but Mukuro couldn't think of anything to say as she stood there dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Monokuma continued his little speech, intentionally saying things meant to antagonize Mukuro. Basically, this is your big chance, you know. If you kill Makoto right here and now, no one will ever take him away from you again. Makoto Naegi, dead by dawn. The last name he ever spoke was Mukuro Uesabi. The last person he ever smiled at was Mukuro Uesabi. Doesn't that sound wonderful? There was a certain appeal to Monokuma's twisted suggestion, and Mukuro found herself unsure of her own judgment. This is wrong. It has to be wrong. But is it really Junko saying all this? So doesn't that mean it's right? No, this isn't Junko. It's Monokuma. Monokuma. Are you sure you want to help Makoto? Once he gets better, he's going to know everything. He'll know what you did to your classmates. I can't believe you would actually erase your friends' memories of their time together and force them to kill each other. Makoto might get mad at you and say, our real enemy isn't the bear, it's her. Do you really want to blame you for this? Mukuro's face turned pale. Or are you going to kill the others? If If everyone except you and Makoto dies, you'll be able to spend the rest of your school life together. We can't hold a class trial with only 2 people. It might be a good idea for you both to live the rest of your lives in this academy forever. No, that's wrong, Ali. And what are you going to do if his memories return? It's not like you were dating Makoto or anything. You were just watching him from afar the whole time. Man, you're so shy. You can shoot people's hearts, brains, no problem. But you can't even woo some stupid boy into liking you. Switch the genders and I know her feeling. Do you want to know who Makoto has a crush on before his memories were taken away? Ooh, it was either Sayaka or Kurogiri. Mukuro trembled as Monokuma continued pressing the issue, gradually loosening the screws, keeping her heart secure. So Mukuro chose to pretend she didn't hear anything at all. All the emotion vanished from her face, and she looked silently for Makoto's e-handbook. If you're looking for his blood type, it's not written in the handbook. Mukuro's face turned pale. Within 5 seconds, her plan to ignore Monokuma had already failed. Damn. But since your headmaster is made up of 50% kindness, I'll tell you anyways. Makoto's blood type is B. As soon as she heard him say that, all the anxiety, horror, hostility, malice, and dread churning within Mukuro had completely vanished. Thank you, Junko. Mukuro's eyes sparkled without a hint of suspicion, so she turned her back to Monokuma without a hint of suspicion, and walked towards the refrigerator containing the blood packs. Fresh blood packs should have been prepared before the plan took effect. They last in cold storage for 21 days. They should still be good. Despite her emotion on his face, Mukuro let herself feel a small amount of satisfaction as she took a blood pack from the refrigerator. As Monokuma watched her, his normally emotionless eyes twitched ever so slightly. If a third party could see his face right now... Damn, I want to see his face right now! Or even if the other students could see his face right now, they'd wonder, is Monokuma surprised? That's right, they have the same shocked look on their face as they were seeing Monokuma for the first time. That moment, a whisper crept out of Monokuma's emotionless face. There should be a limit to how disappointing you can be. It was far quieter than a mosquito's wings. Even though her battle-hardened hearing, Mukuro couldn't hear what he said. Monokuma shook his head and the voice returned normal. It's not like I care that you, the ultimate despair, had hope in anything. It's not like expecting much from you to begin with. So this is at least how we feel despair. Question mark, but seriously, you disappoint me. Just so you know, despair and disappointment are completely different things, okay? They're as different as bears and pandas. What are you? Mukuro's body started to shake as she turned to look at Monokuma. Again started talking any differently than usual. Junko had him turn off the voice modulator and started talking in a real voice. Wait, Monokuma has a voice modulator? And yet, Mukuro was utterly terrified. She was terrified on instinct, not as a soldier. Half the reason she was terrified was because her instincts is the ultimate despair. And the other half was because she was Junko's older sister. Even through Monokuma, her instincts were telling her that Junko was annoyed with her. Junko? Why are you so annoyed? It's because I betrayed you? Or it's because I didn't die like you wanted me to? Monokuma. Sulk Monokuma. I'm beyond annoyed. I'm really, really angry, and I'm really, really disappointed right now. I'm so pissed I could take a rage nap right now. Monokuma's anger didn't seem any different from his usual anger towards the students, but Mukuro could instinctively sense another emotion mixed in with it. Right now she could feel that Junko was feeling hopelessly disappointed. It's normal for someone who's disappointed to lose hope, but for the ultimate despair, disappointment meant something else entirely. To them, disappointment was tantamount to losing despair itself. Mukuro was a member of Ultimate Despair. At her sister's behest, Mukuro had soiled her hands many times in order to fill the world with despair. Despite her pride towards being a member of Ultimate Despair, there was a clear difference between Mukuro and her sister. Junko Enoshima was despair incarnate. She was born in despair, letting it affect others' hope so it would rot them from the inside out, twisting them into her own image. Where Junko, feeling hope, was its own despair. Creating despair in others created despair in herself, which caused her to feel both intense pain and intense bliss. Junko had walked the fracture which created from the conflict between pleasure and penance all her life. Eventually, the fracture would widen until it swallowed the world and tore it in half. But Mukuro, on the other hand, had neither hope nor despair for the world. At least, not when she was a member of Fenrir. Ever since she was a child, Mukuro believed she was meant to spread despair because of her sister. She didn't harbor any will towards the world. She simply accepted she was meant to spread despair. Choose to walk the same path as her sister. The doubt she felt was only a recent development. When Junko told her about the plan, when she watched the world burn at the hands of terrorists wearing Monokuma masks, she never wavered once. However, as soon as she heard about her sister's plan to make their classmates kill each other, Makoto included, a strange feeling began to stir within her. What started as a seed of doubt soon began to grew into a thorny vine, ensnaring Mukuro's feet. As soon as she disguised herself as Junko and finished meeting the other students, as soon as she confirmed that everyone's memories had been completely taken away, that vine began tightening around Mukuro's heart. They're gone. Junko's the only one who knows about me now. That's it. But that's no problem. It's just like the old times. Things will never go back to how they used to be, but that's fine. This should be fine. She relinquished the past 2 years she had spent with her friends so she could betray them, and deliver death and despair onto them. Though her heart ached, Mukuro was beyond feeling guilt or remorse for her actions. But the question, why does my heart ache like this, still remained unanswered. Perhaps that's why she spent so much time talking to Makoto when he was in the nurse's office. And when Makoto gave her that one particular answer, something changed inside her. In return, I promise that if I do decide to kill someone, it won't be you. The words Mukuro blurted out to Makoto weren't improvised to further her role as Junko. It was an honest sentiment from the bottom of her heart. She was even planning to ask Junko herself if Makoto could somehow be spared from her plan. Over the past 2 years, Mukuro's interest had been slowly shifting away from her sister and towards the world itself. By extension, her interests also included Makoto, the first person to ever smile at her and make her feel connected to the world. He was like a sapling of pure honesty that had taken root in Mukuro's heart. But by the time she realized that, the seed had already rotted. As Mukuro struggled to understand the situation, Monokuma let out a sigh and said, I wonder which part of you is a wolf anyway. You're just a dog that blindly follows Junko's orders. What does the tattoo on your hand even mean? Are you just a bitch who pledged her loyalty to her honor? I bet Toko would say that, I'm positive. Question mark. Monokuma continued to talk as Mukuro stood in confusion. I was obviously lying when I said Makoto's blood type is B. What? You lied, Junko? A normal person would have been suspicious. I never thought you'd actually believe me just now. I must have misplaced my eyes because I totally did not see that coming. Not even with my ability to predict the future. How shocking. Jeez, I'm about to start crying my eyes out. Like some sort of robot cat, seriously. It's going to be okay, Junko, said Mukuro. I know our plan kind of fell apart, but I'm still on your side. Are you feeling alright? Because I'll do anything. Snap. A harsh sound came from Monaco's mouth. That sound was one of my circuits overloading. It's been so long since I felt this angry. Meet me on the roof of the school. Cool. I'll smash out all your baby teeth. Mukuro started shadowboxing in front of Mukuro. Monokuma started shadowboxing in front of Mukuro, who remained frozen in place, clutching a blood pack in her hand. She still looked confused, and Monokuma threw up his arms in frustration. You're so disappointing, I can't even predict it anymore. Rawr! A threatening roar burst from Monokuma's mouth as he leapt at Mukuro with his sharp claws extended. Exclamation mark. At that moment, her face became completely emotionless. It was not a conscious action. The defense instinct she honed during her time with Fenrir temporarily suppressed her emotions as she countered Monokuma's attack. Mukuro grabbed a nearby IV stand and used it to parry Monokuma's claws. However, Monokuma's claws seemed to be made with a special alloy, easily sliced the bar in half diagonally. But instead of following up with his attack, Monokuma continued talking to Mukuro. I guess you're not much of a disappointment when it comes to fighting. In fact, if you were so sympathetic you died from that single attack, it would have been interesting in its own way. But right now, you're just incompetent at everything. I'm sorry, said Mukuro. I couldn't help blocking an attack. But there's no way I can fight you, Junko. Please, fight her! Beat her! That's all you have. I'm the only one who understands you at all. Mukuro's words were riddled with endless dismay. The contrast between her usual stoic self and the way she was acting now was so stark, people might assume she had multiple personalities. However, Monokuma just quietly stared at her. He was perfectly still, as if his function had powered down completely. But Mukuro continued to share her feelings. There's no way I can just leave you alone. And then, Monokuma broke a silence, but at that moment, a monitor in the nurse's office lit up, displaying a girl's face, Junko Anishima. At the same time, a voice completely unlike Monokuma began playing from the speakers. Hey, Mukuro. Junko. It had been several days since Mukuro had heard her sister's real voice. Though her face remained emotionless, excitement sparkled in her eyes. However, that shine immediately dulled. I'm grateful to you, Mukuro. I mean it. Junko's voice emitting from the speakers sounded very gentle and kind. Junko? I'm really sorry. I said so many mean things to you. I even tried to kill you earlier, and I was about to make you do something horrible just now. Even though I know about your feelings towards Makoto. I don't. You don't have to force yourself. Even if you did notice, it was totally obvious to anyone looking at you. You never cared about the class photos, or when Makoto said he was going to take one, you made sure you faced the camera. And then Junko Enoshima, the ultimate despair, flashed a smile, a pure sweet smile. On the monitor, she looked like a normal high school girl, teasing her older sister. Yet Mukuro could feel despair and anxiety encasing themselves around her. I always thought you should have tried hard to take pictures with Makoto, but I guess that makes you so disappointing. Still, even though you're disappointing and annoying, I still love you. Mukuro trembled upon hearing those words. The hell? I love you. That's all she ever wanted to hear her sister say. Mukuro believed. No matter what Junko said, she believed she really loved her. She believed she was the only person who could truly understand the despair known as Junko Enoshima. She was naive. As soon as she heard Junko say, I love you, Mukuro realized she never completely understood her sister. It was only at this moment Mukuro finally understood her sister's feelings. Junko's words right now were kind. Perhaps that kindness was completely honest. The words, I love you, might have been true as well. However, for Junko Enoshima, that was her way of saying goodbye. She was severing the ties between them. It was painfully clear. Seriously, how bad does Junko treat her sister and Mukuro just goes with it? The sheer fact of saying, I love you, is something terrible between them. That it's a goodbye. I mean, I have an older brother who, when I had to call for a favor, he happily did it for me and took care of it for me. Who's happy to know the fact that we're living in the same building. We're going to be living in the same building. And was completely fine with me being stuck with him for 3 months. He wanted me there for longer. But this is just disturbing as a sibling relationship, especially to a younger brother himself. And then, before she could even say anything else, the girl on the monitor made a remark that cut Mukuro to the bone. I'm sure someday you'll make your dreams come true. Ultimate despairs never talk to each other like this. A simple truth stabbed into Mukuro's heart. Junko had no further use for her. Her own sister was parting ways with her. Mukuro had dedicated over 10 years of her life to the cause of ultimate despair, and at this moment it all counted for nothing. But those years no longer mattered to Mukuro. Her sister's rejection was more than enough to send her into the depths of despair. That's why Mukuro, even now, clung to a small sliver of hope. Meanwhile, Junko was still on the monitor. Yeah, right. Do you really think I'd say something that nice? You're so annoying. Can you just hurry up and disappear already? Mukuro had hoped Junko would say something like that. She hoped that she'd start verbally abusing her again, or call her useless and incompetent. Mukuro was no mess. She preferred to be showered with bullets and contempt than endure this kind of emotional pain. But, I love you, Mukuro. Bye-bye. The monitor went black, leaving Mukuro to process the horrible goodbye she just received. Seriously. I don't know, but they can't have been worse than Junko. I hope they were worse than Junko. Because at least Junko's whole point is she saw the world as too boring because she could see and predict everything. Except Makoto, apparently. But this is just disturbing. On cue, Monokuma started moving again. Isn't family love so nice? By the way, did you know that in about half of all murder cases, the killer is a family member? Monokuma spoke in his usual tone of voice, but it was unclear if his voice were getting through to Mukuro. Mukuro let the blood plaque in her hand fall to the floor, and tightened her grip on the iron bar she was still holding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Junko, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. She mumbled quietly as if she was chanting a spell, and walked past the blood pack on the floor to Makoto's bedside with the iron bar in her hands. I'll do it properly. I'll make sure I do it. So? Oh, Monokuma said, perking up. What are you going to probably do with Makoto with that big, thick rod you got there? Are you going to do him, or are you going to do him in? Either way, I'm starting to feel some heart-throbbing excitement. Mukuro looks like she had been completely broken. Monokuma walked closer to her with eager anticipation. Suddenly, Monokuma's body suddenly floated in the air. Huh? With no expression on his face, Monokuma tried to see what had happened to him. And at the blink of an eye, an iron bar ripped through his body. The tip of the bar, which had been cut diagonally earlier into a sharp point, went straight through Monokuma and stabbed into a surveillance camera. The lens were completely destroyed, and the camera shot out sparks as it broke down. The iron bar was still stabbed into the surveillance camera as Monokuma dangled from the other end. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but only static came out. 3 seconds later, his functions came to a complete stop. Without making a sound at all, Mukuro had kicked Monokuma into the air. As soon as Monokuma's power source and his bomb circuit had been perfectly aligned with the surveillance camera in the nurse's office, Mukuro plunged the iron bar into all three of them. No normal human had the skill to utilize such a technique, not even Ultimate. All the hesitation with Mukuro had vanished. Her eyes sparkled like a panther stalking its prey at night. A tense aura surrounded Mukuro, even more than when she fought Sakura earlier. Ignoring Monokuma's lifeless form, she looked at Makoto as the youth softly remembered her sister's parting words. So this is despair, she mumbled to herself. I'm so sorry, Junko. I never really understood what despair was. She spoke without emotion, like a machine. But it's going to be alright now. I finally understand. Hidden within her, passion began to stir. So, I'll make sure I'll make you happy, Junko. I'll make sure I fill you with despair. I'll save Makoto. I'll make sure the others don't die. I'll let them escape from this place. I'll deal with the people on the outside too. You invested so much time and killed so many people for the sake of this plan. And I'll destroy every last remnant of it for you. This was not an act of vengeance toward the sister who had abandoned her. This was an act of mercy. Stuck between the ultimate despair and the hope she gained from Makoto, Mukuro was being refined in something that was unlike despair or hope, and she had no way of knowing where her path would lead. Over 10 minutes had passed. The sound of the students leaving the gym and making their way to the nurse's office rang throughout the hall. Genocide Show had continued to dodge Sakura's attacks with their tricky movements, but when Byaka blurted out, "Enough already, you pervert," Genocide Show stopped in her tracks. Oh my. Getting chewed up by my bespectacled Byaka is making my masochistic side get all tingled. I got nothing for this. They say the line between sadism and masochism is paper thin. In my case, it's more like a Venn diagram. There's a fucking image. Words cannot express these hot waves of passion, squirming from the bottom of my head to the tips of my toes. She rambled clearly from Byaka. The other students tied her up with a microphone cable from the gym and locked her in her room. Half the students stayed behind to keep an eye on her, while the rest left to search the grounds of the school. As soon as the door to the nurse's office opened, Kyoko saw a non-functioning Monokuma with a hole in its chest and the remains of a surveillance camera. It wasn't just in the nurse's office, though. On their way, the students had seen several destroyed surveillance cameras and scattered Monokuma bodies. This was a clear violation of school regulations, but if Mukuro was allied with Monokuma, those regulations wouldn't apply to her anyway. The Monokuma inside the gym was no longer moving, and the students had lost contact with the hacker Shiki Madara. So the students had assumed that Madara had taken control of a different Monokuma and went after Mukuro on his own. With that in mind, Kyoko turned and looked inside the nurse's office once again. It was unusually quiet. The beds were empty, but Kyoko could see from the bloodstains that someone had been resting there recently. Looks like they're already gone. Madara remarked, but as he was about to leave, Kyoko spoke up behind him. I'm going to stay here with Chihiro and search for clues. Huh? Asked Chihiro, her timid eyes widening. Clues? Kyoko continued to speak in a calm tone of voice. Yes, there may be some clues in these Monokuma remains. I figured you would be the best candidate for investigating machinery. Sakura spoke up. But isn't that dangerous? Since Sakura could clearly hold her own in a fight with Mukuro, she had joined the other students in searching the school grounds. Kyoko shook her head and replied, I'm sorry to say this, but if things get out of hand, Chihiro and I will be in your way. I think it's better if we search for clues here instead of doing nothing. Besides, we might be able to use Monokuma's parts to detect any radio broadcasts from the outside world. You certainly have a point. Understood. We'll be exploring this floor for a while. Please shout for us if anything happens. Sakura left the nurse's office. How did she destroy Monokuma like this? As Chihiro cautiously stood over Monokuma's remains, Kyoko started searching through the room. She zeroed in on one of the beds and began studying intensely. A moment later, Kyoko was satisfied with what she found and let out a small sigh before she spoke. Chihiro, let me apologize to you in advance. Huh? I dragged you into this gamble of mine, so if anything happens, run out the hallway and call for help. What does that mean? But instead of answering Chihiro's question, Kyoko started tacking to one of the empty beds. Let me say this first. I'm here to hear your story. No matter how ridiculous it may sound, I promise not to decide if it's a lie or the truth until I listen to it entirely. Chihiro looked confused. He didn't understand what Kyoko meant at all. The ultimate question. Yeah, Kyoko doesn't know her talent. And no, she's not in the recursive course like Hajime. We all know what her talent is. The ultimate program to make a request. Chihiro, does your laptop have a voice recording function? And do you also have a microphone? Yeah. I want you to use that to record everything we're about to hear. Question mark? But there's no one here. As Chihiro wondered to herself, he began connecting Yes, I realized I said herself there. I'm tempted to read exactly what it said, but I know for a fact that's the wrong thing, so I'm reading it as what it should be. Yes, or I shouldn't use those, but you know what I mean. She began connecting Monokuma's parts to his laptop and turned on the record function. I'm sure we'll pick up every sound in this room now, said Chihiro nervously. Satisfied, Kyoko nodded and once again started talking to the empty bed. So what were you going to do if I told everyone that I found Makoto? When he heard Kyoko say that, Chihiro looked back at her and was surprised by what he saw. At that moment, the ultimate programmer was kneeling on the floor next to Monokuma's remains. From that position, he was able to see it. Of all the beds in the nurse's office, there was one bed in particular that couldn't be seen from the entrance. Underneath that bed laid a limp Makoto. A blood pack was hidden next to the bed and slowly providing Makoto with transfusion. The contents of the blood pack were clear. Rather than blood, it seemed like some kind of saline solution used in emergency hydration. Though it wouldn't be as effective as an actual blood transfusion, it was enough to keep him from going into shock. Though that was the extent of Chihiro's medical knowledge. He was already surprised that Makoto had been in the nurse's office this whole time. Not only that, but Kyoko wasn't talking the bed that Makoto was under, which sent chills throughout Chihiro's body. However, there was no one under the bed that Kyoko was facing. But the moment Chihiro noticed that, a voice rang out from underneath it. As soon as everyone's attention was focused on Makoto, I was planning to take advantage of that opportunity to take someone hostage. As Chihiro cautiously lowered his head until it was nearly touching the floor, he was able to make out who was talking. Surprisingly, the person who was hiding there was clinging to the frame of the bed, like a ninja clinging to the ceiling. Presumably, it was someone who had glanced on the bed quickly. They wouldn't have noticed anybody was there. Though Chihiro had no idea how the person was able to hide under the bed for so long, he was able to understand that their strength was beyond normal human levels. There was no question that the person hiding under the bed was Mukuro Iwasabi. But you pretended not to notice why. Mukuro's voice was cold as ice, but Kyoko didn't even flinch as he responded, because I wanted to hear your side of the story. I knew you were hiding under that bed. Compared to the others, the frame was slightly more pronounced. Chihiro tried comparing the beds to see if there was true, but he couldn't tell the difference at all. Only Hyoko's natural observation skills would let her see something like that. Mukuro seemed to come to a similar conclusion and appeared from under the bed without making a sound. Her face was stoic and cold. Compared to the bomb inside Monokuma, Chihiro thought she was even more terrifying. However, Mukuro ignored Chihiro and shifted her gaze at Kyoko. She leaned against a wall and threw her arms and let her arms fall to the side as she threw out another question. Why do you even hear what I have to say? Kyoko thought about this simple question for a while, as if she was searching within her own heart for the answer. If I have to provide an answer, it's because I wish to remain neutral. Kyoko quietly looked down. I'm currently missing most of my memories. I don't know who I am or what talent I had to be accepted into this school. She could hear Chihiro gasp behind her, but Kyoko didn't mind and continued. But even so, I believe I should listen to what you have to say. Regardless of whether you're good or evil, I must hear all the facts in order to know the truth. Good and evil don't matter. I'll come to a conclusion based on what I see and hear. I think there's a methodology that it's been installed. I think that's the methodology installed inside me. I see. I completely forgot. You will like that, Kyoko. But before I listen to what you have to say, I'd like to ask you one question first. What is it? Mukuro's reply was completely emotionless. Kyoko presented her question as if she was asking it of herself as well. What was my talent that allowed me to attend this academy? The answer to that question was simple. Kyoko, you're the ultimate detective. Told you, it was not reserved, of course. Obviously, we'd have all known this, but obviously, it's not known to the characters. That answer made a turning point for both girls. Thank you. I have a better understanding of the situation now. Kyoko raised her head and presented a theory. If my memory loss wasn't just a coincidence, then your group has the ability to erase people's memories. With that in mind, and taking into consideration the situation that unfolded in the gym earlier, I can only come to one possibility. Possibility? Yes. What you said to Byaka when he thought you were taking Kyoko hostage, you claimed that they met 2 years ago. It's possible that might be actually be true. The fact that Makoto called out Mukuro's name. Things that Mukuro confirmed and denied. Genocider shows outlandish claims. These key factors that Kyoko noted were using her special observation skills were converging in her mind to form one answer. It's possible that Byaka and Toko's memories were also erased, like mine, but I don't think their circumstances are quite the same as mine. But if our memories can be controlled so freely, it calls into question whether the day Monokuma appeared was really the same day we entered the academy. Like you said, it's possible that we've known Toko Fukuagi for the last 2 years. What do you mean? Chihiro cried out, still working on connecting his laptop to Monokuma's parts. Kyoko continued, speaking to both Chihiro and Mukuro. We thought we were knocked unconscious with the sleeping gas the moment we arrived at the school. But it's possible we were simply made to think that's what happened. For example, we may have already spent the last 2 years at Hope Defeat Academy, and our memories of that time were completely erased. It's even possible that we weren't even Ultimates at all. Oh, please, what twist would ever give that? That we're not... Obviously, we know this is a bullshit twist, because they were all Ultimates. Not just 16 random people who had been planted with 16 years worth of false memories. I mean, come on, what game series would call them, would just make the characters Ultimates? Come on. That's just... See, even the game considers that a ridiculous term. It's like telling Digimon Descents they're gonna lose their Digimon. Bullshit, breaking rules. Left and right. Although Kyoko's claim sounded ridiculous, her face was completely serious. She looked up at Mukuro once again, which means I'm considering the possibility your crazy story is actually the truth. Kyoko's declaration filled the room with silence. I'm also going to say I think this is going to take longer than our normal 2 hour stream times, but I don't know if we can save in between this. First time I tried this, I didn't get this far at all, and I never figured out if there was a save point. If there is, we might save this for a couple more episodes. If not, we're going to just try to finish this all in one sitting, guys, so this will be a long-ass episode. Kyoko's declaration filled the room with silence, but she didn't let that silence overwhelm her. Kyoko's cut through it with her own words. Without evidence, all I can do is make hypotheses. That's why I want to hear what you have to say, Mukuro. I have no intention of blindly believing what you're going to say, or what that self-proclaimed hacker who took over Monokuma said. She paused and lowered her eyes again, then declared with powerful determination. Even so, I intend to come to a conclusion as fairly and as objectively as I can, but I can only do that if you trust me and tell me the truth. Kyoko's conviction was clearer from her voice. Mukuro's eyes narrowed slightly, and a tapestry of emotions flashed across her face as she looked towards Kyoko. When she opened her mouth, her expression and voice were completely devoid of emotion. That's right, I completely forgot you were like that. Mukuro repeated this to herself softly, then faced Kyoko and declared, That must be why Junko took care to erase more of your memories compared to the others. Very well, I'll tell you everything. And after Mukuro placed Makoto back on the bed, she began mechanically telling a story. The story of a girl who wanted to fill the world with despair. A girl who only felt truly happy when she was filled with despair herself. A plan for despair that began 2 years ago, or perhaps even earlier than that. How the world was currently ruled by despair itself. Mukuro provided a brief summary of everything she knew about the plan. That's why it sounded even more outrageous than Kyoko had expected. Even though, through her story, Kyoko was able to learn the truth about herself, who she is and why she came to the Academy, the fate of the Academy's real headmaster, Kyoko's father. As she listened to Mukuro's story, Kyoko remained silent the whole time. Her face went blank when she learned her father had died. Perhaps her memory loss and the absurdity of the situation had helped lessen the impact somewhat, but there was no guarantee Kyoko would believe her story. After Mukuro finished speaking, Kyoko stayed silent. With her unrivaled mental prowess, she was able to listen to Mukuro's story without interrupting her or dismissing it as nonsense. Mukuro continued, You don't have to believe me. After all, any pictures that could prove my story are with Junko. All I can do is talk. After she said that, Mukuro silently walked towards the entrance to the nurse's office. When she arrived at the door, she spoke again without looking back. But even if you don't believe me, you should still listen to everything I had to say. So, Kyoko, you still listened to everything I had to say. So, Kyoko, Chihiro, thank you. After apologizing in such a strange tone, she turned to the bed where Makoto lay, breathing weakly. Make sure Makoto stays rested. When he wakes up, I'll make sure you give him some sports drinks from the dining hall or supply room to drink. Please, of course, but what are you going to do now? Asked Kyoko. Mukuro, stirring yourself up. Despair. I need to make Junko feel despair. Mukuro continued mumbling to herself as she opened the door. There's nothing else I can do. No, there's something else you can do. Question mark. Mukuro stopped walking as Kyoko spoke firmly. Regardless of whether Monokuma is really Junko Adashima or Besshiki Madara, if you're dealing with him, you won't be able to lay a finger on Makoto. I don't fully trust you, but if you're really concerned for Makoto's life, I'm willing to work with you. Unlike Bishiki, who's probably abandoned him already. Right? I'm sorry, I don't really work well with others. Mukuro looked away, then bowed her head as she left the nurse's office, but... I'll do my best. The door closed, and Mukuro was gone. I'm sorry for involving you in something so dangerous, Chihiro. She continued to organize the vast amounts of information that Mukuro gave her. She turned to Chihiro, who was working on Monokuma. Who was still working on Monokuma. As he trembled with fear, Chihiro slowly looked back at Kyoko. Kyoko? About what Mukuro said just now. Chihiro's face turned pale as he struggled with his words, and Kyoko tried to calm him down. We can't determine if anything she told us was true or not. There's no need to be afraid. But Chihiro shook his head and returned to look at his laptop. I think she's telling the truth. What are you basing that on? Well, it looks like Monokuma is really being controlled from the outside. Part of Monokuma's system had been connected to Chihiro's laptop, and he was analyzing the data in the control system. And it was when the ultimate programmer noticed something unusual about it. This control program. I thought it would be another year before the system became fully optional. Chihiro started trembling so much he was unable to continue speaking. We can't confirm that. Kyoko said, proposing another possibility to avoid jumping to conclusions. It's possible that a similar program was being developed in secret. But Chihiro adamantly shook his head and said, no, that's not it. It just looks really familiar to me. Kyoko looked over Chihiro's trembling shoulders to peer at the screen, and that's when she noticed this program. Chihiro, did you create this? All the ultimate programmer could do was nod weakly. First floor, main hall. Mukuro continued moving forward and was fortunate enough to not encounter Sakura or Mondo. With no interference from anyone, she made her way to a hall as large as the gym and stood before the sealed main entrance. Suddenly, Monokuma popped out from the shadows to block her path. Within this hall was that resembled a nuclear bomb shelter, replented with all matters of heavy weaponry. Monokuma's silhouette was constantly out of place here. His laughter rang throughout the room as he wiggled his body from side to side. What are you doing? What were you doing at the nurse's office? Did you eliminate your rival from Makoto's affections? Or did you help play matchmaker instead? Either way, don't you think it's kind of adorable to put Makoto and Kyoko in this kind of situation together? If this was a suspense film, those two would be the last couple standing. If this were a horror film, they'd just die anyway. The killer was alive all along. Splat goes blood, plop goes the meat. I'm a huge fan of endings where the characters think they're gonna live, but they're all headed to a final destination. Wait, what the hell is a tenation? What does that even mean? Despite Monokuma's angry complaints, Mukuro remained silently unperturbed. She continued to stare at icy daggers at Monokuma as if she was waiting for him to finish speaking. Well, anyways, I'm just so sad right now. A regulation-breaking delinquent is disrupting the harmony of this peaceful academy. I can't even keep one of my students from running wild. Time to say goodbye to your incompetent headmaster. I'm going to use Monokuma Evolution to become a big Magnum headmaster and mold you into a decent student. As soon as he said that, Monokuma extended his claws and waddled towards Mukuro. So I'm going to mold you. So if I'm going to mold you, I got to kill you first. Right as he finished speaking, Monokuma suddenly charged at Mukuro like a spiked volleyball. But Mukuro was faster and dodged Monokuma's attack. She jumped back, keeping her distance from Monokuma just in case his claws could extend even longer. Just then, a shadowy figure appeared next to her. Exclamation mark! Mukuro twisted her body to its limits just to narrowly evade the figure's attack. When she landed on the floor, she immediately saw... So what does this immortal killer want anyway? Are you going to tell the others the truth and escape with them? Even though you know the outside world is like... Even though you know what the outside world is like right now? Two Monokumans were speaking to Mukuro and you. Honestly, I don't mind either that. I can just imagine the look on everyone's face when they discover the truth. It fills me with such heart-throbbing excitement. The two Monokumas continue to speak in stereo sound. You said you destroy my plans, but there's no happy ending waiting for you, no matter which route you take. You only have yourself to blame for that. Don't tell me you thought they would be grateful for you. If you guys escape here, do you think they'll forgive you when they get a whiff of that nasty air outside? Some of them might prefer to stay in school, and some of them might resent you for being kind and showing them the truth. Then again, this is all your fault anyway, so it doesn't really matter what they think of you. Monokuma made a little mistake. Despite facing down two Monokumas, Mukuro's expression didn't waver. She understood that controlling two Monokumas was simultaneously with a piece of cake. Mukuro drew an arm-length metal bar from seemingly nowhere and readied herself. It was the remains of the IV stand in the nurse's office sharpened into a pointed weapon. With her weapon in hand, Mukuro responded in a cold, mechanical tone. That's fine. I'm already used to that. None of the fear she felt when Monokuma suggested that Makoto would blame her appeared on her face. See, now she's perfectly fine standing up to Junko. Why couldn't she do it earlier? Her path was clear to her now, and she was calmly issued her demand to Monokuma. Junko opened the gates. The shock of such a straightforward demand left both Monokumas momentarily speechless, but as soon as they replied, "Huh? Why?" "So we can all leave together." Another straightforward answer. Both Monokuma faced each other and began gesturing as they were whispering to one another. Mukuro knew their movements were intended to mock her. Unmoved, she continued to speak directly. "I think they'll understand if I show them the outside world, and then they'll stop doubting Makoto. You always find new ways to disappoint me, Mukuro. Did you forget why the school has an air infiltration system? It's true that the air outside is polluted, but I don't think it will kill us immediately. Besides, it's better than being trapped in the school and forced to kill each other. How can you be so sure the others will go along with you? You know what I mean, right? Before the former headmaster got turned into a space dust, he interviewed the others and they all agreed they wanted to stay in the school. That was before their memories had even been erased. Do you really want them to betray their wishes?" Mukuro blinked and slowly stepped forward. "I don't really care about their feelings, huh? You're all I need, Junko, so don't worry. I'm always watching out for you. I'm going to make sure you feel despair, and I'm going to make Makoto and the others happy. If you want to revel in your own despair that badly, then I'll trust the hope Makoto gave me and take my chances with them instead of you." Mukuro's brief but powerful words caused the Monokumas to turn and talk to each other again. "Oh my, this doesn't look good at all, Monokuma, eh? This child doesn't realize her own hypocrisy. She's so disappointing that she's even starting to reach critical mass, right, Monokuma B?" The two Monokumas looked at Mukuro, who seemed ready to destroy them, and said, "What do you think, Monokuma C?" Question mark? Mukuro was taken back by the sudden question, but her instinct suddenly kicked in and she immediately dodged away. At that moment, a third Monokuma claws extended past by where her head had been previously. This new Monokuma unit landed with several spins and faced Mukuro, who had clung to the remains of a surveillance camera still attached to the ceiling. "I agree with both of you, A and B." Three Monokumas lined themselves up. The students locked inside the academy, this sight would have been akin to a nightmare. Right on. Woohoo! Three units began speaking in perfect harmony. As their 6 eyes looked up at Mukuro, suddenly they jumped away in 3 separate directions and kicked off one of the walls. The path of each unit's strength, your attack, all conveyed on a single point. Mukuro, who was still clinging to the ceiling. Wait, oh, she's on the ceiling. I thought for a second, when I first read that, I thought the Monokuma was on the ceiling. I'll say this. All I want to say is Monokuma knows how to do a triangle attack. She was surrounded by razor-sharp claws coming from her from different directions. But this situation wasn't even a nightmare to Mukuro. Compared to the time she fended off 3 assassins who invaded her camp 1 night back when she was still a member of Fenrir, this was nothing. This thought crossed Mukuro's mind as she dangled from the ceiling with one hand and thrashed her limbs around like a tornado. Intercepted by this move, the Monokumas fell to the floor with a loud crash. Mukuro landed on the ground and chased after one of them, branching a metal bar. Suddenly she stopped moving and took a huge step back. One of the Monokumas exploded with a deafening roar. He had detonated the bomb inside of him in an attempt to take Mukuro down with him. But thanks to her own battlefield instincts, Mukuro managed to avoid the explosion. She looked towards the hallway, expecting the explosion to have attracted the attention of Sakura and the others, but she didn't hear any footsteps approaching. Monokuma's voice rang from within the dense smoke. "Oh, you don't have to worry. I already told the other students to assemble in the cafeteria. They were eager to follow my orders after I told them I disarmed the poison gas, and a special police unit was coming to get them. I'm pretty sure Hyoko and the others are all in the cafeteria by now. I'm sure Makoto is with them too." Question! Exclamation mark! I doubt Sakura will get too rough with him, but I'm sure Yuaka will torture Makoto once he awakes. I can just imagine him rubbing salt over or pouring soy sauce on him. What the hell kind of torture is that? It's open wounds. Man, I'm getting hot and bothered right now. Wahahaha! When she listened to Monokuma's overlapping voices, Mukuro tilted her voice slowly and asked, "I'm pretty sure they're going to find out that you lied about the special police unit. Are you really okay with that?" "No worries. Once I deal with you, I don't care at all if they find out I'm lying." Question mark? You still don't get it? You're such a disappointment. It's only dawned on Mukuro. Not the reason why Monokuma didn't care if the students found out he lied, but rather, the voices of Monokumas in the smoke were gradually increasing in number. As smoke started to clear, the shadows of 3 Monokumas appeared. The one that exploded could not have been revived, so a new one must have come to take its place. But there's no way Mukuro had only heard 3 Monokuma start talking to her just now. As if to prove her hearing had been accurate, the Monokumas made their move. 3 Monokumas bent over and began twirling their upper bodies. From behind them, new Monokumas emerged, like actor images brought to life. The second row of Monokumas mimicked the earlier ones with only 1 frame of delay, revealing even more Monokumas behind them. Oh god! There's an army of Monokumas! Okay, it's only 30. Yeah, 30. Ooh, did you know this is called the circle dance? Monokuma's 30 voices spoke in perfect harmony as they divulged information that had nothing to do with the current situation. Mukuro already knew that multiple Monokumas were positioned throughout the academy, but only Junko knew how many Monokumas actually existed. Mukuro had no way of knowing if these 30 Monokumas were part of a larger contingent. The flocks of 2-ton teddy bears continued to twirl around. Mukuro felt like she was being bombarded with hypnotic images, but faced with this abnormal sight, the ultimate soldier remained calm and maintained her focus. She was nothing like the girl who had panicked earlier in the gym when Makoto was impaled. She stood before 30 enemies in despair. She slowed her breathing and allowed her heart rate to accelerate. It was not instinct, nor fear, or panic that sent her blood racing throughout her body, speeding up the reaction time of her cells. As her senses sharpened, the Monokumas began speaking to her once again. Don't worry, I'll make sure Makoto doesn't die. And also, I need to take a brief moment to step away. I need to go make sure to do my last eye drops for the night. Question mark. As long as everyone lives, I can reset their memories as many times as I want. And I do apologize for me having to do my eye drops, but I have to do those regularly, 3 times a day, and I need help with them, so I need to make sure the person who helps me with them is not asleep by now. As long as everyone lives, I can reset their... I just read that, didn't I? Exclamation mark. Woohoo, that's right. All your efforts, hope, dreams, and determinations are going right in the garbage heap. The Monokumas took turns speaking in a group of 10. It's the mastermind controlling the Monokumas wanted to show off her ability to manipulate them. However, the Ultimate Soldier knew what the true purpose behind all this was. She strained her ears to their limits and noticed a certain sound hidden among the Monokuma's voices. Muguru's face remained perfectly still as she kicked off the floor. The moment she moved to the side, a roaring sound shook the entrance hall. The ceiling-mounted turrets in front of the gate started raining bullets down on Mukuro. The Monokumas were just a mastermind's decor while she tried to blow her away. As if further trapping her, the Monokumas charged at Mukuro through the storm bullets. Mukuro guessed the mastermind programmed their movements in advance so they wouldn't get hit by a single bullet. She ran for the gate, evading waves of bullets and claws every step of the way, programming 30 Monokumas and 2 turns while also predicting Mukuro's escape route. This would be considered impossible for anyone, but Mukuro knew it was possible for Junko. As ultimate despair, she possessed despair-inducing abilities that surpassed the abilities of any normal human. It's actually because Junko's actual talent is not ultimate fashionista, she's the ultimate analyst. Her display of power was only filling Mukuro with despair. The scene played out in front of Mukuro was brimming with despair. The adorable, deadly Monokumas laughed and danced like reapers as bullets wheezed through the air. It was despair to the point of absurdity, and it was all for Mukuro. All in the presence of such despair, Mukuro felt a strange serenity. For me. Junko's doing this all for me. Junko, are you watching me right now? In the end, perhaps Mukuro really was a disappointment. She clenched her fists. Junko, thank you. The sound of gunfire overshadowed her whisper, and Mukuro felt completely silent. As a member of Ultimate Despair, Mukuro's heart was filled with joy. Though she was filled with emotion, her eyes had lost their sparkle. Silence filled the air. Even the gunfire from the turrets seemed to stop for a moment. But that was only illusion to the one controlling Monokuma. Something strong enough to silence the gunfire and avoid being picked up by the sensors spread through the school, with Mukuro at the center. I'll make sure I do this right. With that final thought, she closed her mouth and turned off her emotions. She ran through the waves of scorching bullets. The air around her began to grow colder. As this coolness spread into her heart, it began to beat in a mechanical fashion. Several seconds later, Mukuro's body and mind melded together and became one with her surroundings. Her temperature now dominated the battlefield. Despair, bullets, and Monokumas filled the area. Mukuro predicted their movements and jumped in the air without any hesitation. One of the Monokumas jumped at her, but she avoided his attack, kicked his body, and launched herself in midair. Bullets pierced through the space where Mukuro was previously occupied, striking the falling Monokuma right through its eternal bomb. The impact of the bullets caused it to explode, sending fiery Monokuma parts everywhere. As she rode the blast wave, Mukuro balanced herself in midair, and she kicked away 2 or 3 Monokumas that leapt after her. She moved so gracefully she was practically flying. In contrast, the Monokumas threw themselves into the path of oncoming bullets, exploding one after the other. Some of them exploded near the main entrance, but their blasts didn't even leave a scratch. With full control over the entrance hall, Mukuro evaded bullets and confirmed the bombs inside Monokuma weren't enough to destroy the door. But she refused to stop. Mukuro needed to get information on what she must do to escape the academy. She had no desire to kill Junko. Who really should? Mukuro wanted to fill Junko with despair by instilling hope into the future of Makoto and other students. At least she wants to fill... And I still feel like you just get as much despair as doing that and putting a bullet in Junko's head. The disappointing sister killing her, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Get information? In contrast to her determination, her mouth stayed shut. But this did not mean Mukuro was not currently speaking to Junko. This situation, this battle of death and destruction, was a conversation of sorts for Mukuro. All she knew how to do was fight. She thought she wasn't interested in anything else. She thought she didn't need anything else. All Mukuro needed to be was a sword to fill her sister's desire for despair. That was purpose alone, was the crux of her existence. She lived her entire life convincing herself that she couldn't do anything else. That's why power was like a language to Mukuro. Battle to the Death revealed more about her heart than mere words ever could. Her words were in the wind of savagery that blows across the battlefield, uprooting others who also speak the language of violence. This was true even against her sister. When Junko thought would berate her sister, Mukuro couldn't talk back. Not sure why. All she could do was cower and apologize profusely. But it's different now. For the first time, Junko was using a language her sister actually recognized. The child of despair who tore the world apart was speaking to her sister with the language of power. Mukuro's heart filled with joy. For that reason, she strengthened her focus on her conversation with Junko, and that emotion began to gradually disappear. On this frigid battlefield, Mukuro continued her heated conversation. Endless rounds of despair fired from the school's turrets, but Mukuro's words accepted every last violent shot that threatened to shatter her body and mind in half. She quickly realized that Monokuma hadn't a number at all, no matter how many she kept destroying. Not only that, she noticed that more Monokumas had been joining the fray until there were nearly 50 of them for Mukuro to fight, but Mukuro's resolve wouldn't break so easily. As she continued to wield her power, her heart began to fill with something that was neither hope nor despair. She learned despair from being abandoned by Junko. She learned hope from her acts of violence. For Mukuro, who had no interest in this world, this small space in front of the gate was a reflection of her life, a representation of her perfect world. This disappointing girl had filled with endless disappointment, who knew no other way to live and continue her lonely dance. She surrendered herself to the rhythm of despair, which accompanied with the music of hope. Computer room, innermost area, Monokuma room. How much time had passed? The surveillance cameras at the gates were capturing footage of countless Monokumas falling at the hands of a child who fought like a raging demon. The Monokumas boasted their numbers, and now 100 of them were trying to sink their claws into Mukuro. Most of them were running on autopilot, reacting to her movements based on prior information they had received in advance. But despite standing before hundreds of mechanical adversaries, Mukuro's face showed no fear. She hadn't sustained a single injury, giving her a present that was nearly divine to behold, though Sakura Ogami was powerful enough to injure her arm. Mukuro in her current state could potentially fight Sakura to a draw now, without relying on firearms. She took complete control of the battlefield, taking her surroundings as if they were a part of herself. She dodged attacks from the rear as though she had eyes on the back of her head, and stabbed through Monokuma's weak points with her metal bar. No matter where the attacks came from, Mukuro deflected them all as if her skin were covered in eyes. Describing her as an ultimate no longer did her justice. Mukuro had transcended the boundaries of humanity and become a pure killing machine. And despite that, even though she understood the lucrative power her sister possessed, Junko was not afraid. She felt not one iota of fear. After all Junko can feel is despair. She even started to admire her sister's attempt to fill her with despair. That sentiment quickly filled Junko with, I don't even know what that word is, orgastic ecstasy of despair. Junko knew. She knew that Mukuro was neither hope nor despair. She was just a phenomenon. A disappointing girl who no longer understood herself. Who only knew how to be violent because it was all she could believe in anymore. Mukuro had become an avatar of destruction beyond that of any military force. She couldn't even consider a soldier anymore. She was a natural disaster, like a typhoon or a tornado, or perhaps like gravity. She was now a fundamental force of the universe that only existed to bring despair to Junko. The mastermind enjoyed watching her sister go all out. If Mukuro destroyed everything and ruined her life, Junko would still be comforted by despair. That's the sad thing about Junko's character. No matter what, she can't lose. She could still go right ahead and overpower her. Junko considered this for a few seconds until a familiar hopeless habit reared its head. Her habit of getting so bored it made her sick. A girl who had been grinning as she watched the screen now wore a look of calm stoicism. She reached for the microphone connected to Monokuma's speakers. Mukuro was no longer human anymore, but Junko knew how to bring her back. It was a simple feeling, really, and with that hopeless feeling for Mukuro in mind, the mastermind just said one word: Mukuro. In front of the main entrance, Mukuro, that voice. It was calling her name. Instead of Monokuma's voice filter, Junko's natural voice was coming out of a Monokuma unit. That's all it took. With one word, Mukuro Usopp stopped being a force of nature and became a person again. Damn it! Monokuma would not miss this opportunity. As moving to the beat of Mukuro's shaking heart, a torn of claws leapt to attack her. But Mukuro trusted her instincts and twisted her entire body to fend off the attacks, leaving her with only a few scrapes here and there. But the despair wasn't over yet. The ultimate despair didn't waste any time in making her next move. Mukuro, watch out! Huh? As soon as Mukuro heard that voice, her mind went completely blank. There was no mistaking it. That was Makoto's scream. The scream that had saved her from the spear of Gungnir's and changed her destiny. No, that's wrong. It took her a tenth of a second to realize that voice was just a sound clip that Junko had to replay it. But it was more than enough time to drag Mukuro, who had regained her humanity, into despair. Right when she recovered from her moment shock, Monokuma appeared behind her and roundhouse kicked her in the temple. Wait. She twisted her head to roll with the blow, but at that moment a different Monokuma attacked her from the opposite side with a headbutt. As soon as Mukuro dodged that attack, Green Monokuma's launched simultaneously drop kicks and knocked her to the ground. Ugh. The fact that they weren't using their claws meant they were trying to kill Mukuro right away. Before she could stand up again, dozens of Monokumas waiting for her. The floor climbed on the top of Mukuro and pinned her limbs. One of the Monokumas waddled over to Mukuro as she laid face down on the floor and laughed. Ooh, a pretty girl getting pinned by all these me's? I wonder if I should feel more excited about this. Don't make that face. If I want to kill you, I'd just pump you full of bullets right now. But I don't think the audience watching this on TV would like that ending very much. I need to make sure I do it the right way this time. What do you plan to do to me? Mukuro asked in a motionless voice. Monokuma guffed and answered, nothing. I'm just going to stick to the original plan and make you play the killing game at this school. I'll erase everyone's memories again, and I'll just make them redo the introductions and the entrance ceremony again. In typical Monokuma fashion, he leaned his face towards Mukuro, but it'd be boring if you have to redo everything. Maybe this time I'll have you participate as Mukuro Usabi. Question mark? I'll take away even more of your memories like I did to that irritating detective girl. You'll just be a poor little girl with no memory at all. As Monokuma talked and wiggled his body from side to side, the other Monokumas danced and twirled around. Amidst this fantastical scene, Monokuma continued to describe his hopeless plan in a nonchalant manner. At first, you'll be the girl with amnesia, and everyone will feel sorry for you. But as they unravel the mystery of this academy, they'll find out who you really are. It's exciting to think how they'll treat you when that happens. Knowing you'll probably kill someone purely on instinct. Maybe I should rethink my rules about self-defense. You can't. Her memories would be erased. There was nothing else she could do about her classmates hating her. But even losing her childhood memories would mean her connection to Junko would be severed as well. You really should stop worrying about your sister. Even if Mukuro had no interest in the world, that was unbearable even for her. I even heard of a New Game Plus before, but this will be the first... I've heard of a New Game Plus before, but this will be the first time I get to see a New Game Minus. Should I tie you up for fun? Or maybe we should make this game even more masochistic. Forget hard mode, very hard mode, and inferno mode. Want to just skip ahead to impossible mode? Oh god, impossible mode? Question mark. Maybe I'll erase your memories after I drag you on a motorcycle, pummel you with 1,000 baseballs, burn you at the stake, and crush you with an excavator. Mukuro knew what Monokuma was talking about. He was describing the tools they had prepared for the various executions that they had planned for the students. After everyone reintroduces himself, they'll walk around the school grounds and eventually find a flat-chested girl with amnesia, covered in bandages, with Fenrir's tattoo on her right hand. I'll bet a certain fan base might get off on it. If this were a game, that would increase the sales by 500%. Though Monokuma sounded like he was joking, everything he said was deadly serious. As evidence, Mukuro heard a rumbling sound off in the distance. Now, then your sweet ride is on its way. Based on the engine noises, Mukuro surmised that it was the large motorcycle that was supposed to be used for one of the executions. I took the time to bring this all the way from the punishment room, so you better be grateful. The sound of a roaring engine grew louder and louder, like the approaching footsteps of death. Mukuro wondered how Monokuma would drive it with such tiny arms and legs, but then she remembered she was dealing with an ultimate despair. Junko would make the impossible possible just to bring about despair. Wait, are you saying Walt Disney is an ultimate despair? No! A despair that went hand in hand with Mukuro's fate. Did I fail? I couldn't fill Junko with despair. I couldn't save Makoto and the others. Questions raced through Mukuro's mind, but she wasn't able to answer them. There was no way she could answer them so easily. After all, she was still alive. The sound of the motorcycle grew closer and closer as if it was threatening to break Mukuro's spirit. Question mark. Suddenly, Monokuma stopped moving. The other Monokumas continued doing their automatic movements. As the strange events unfolded, Mukuro noticed that something. The motorcycle had suddenly gone quiet. After a few seconds, the engine exploded life and began approaches even faster than before. Only a few seconds later, what appeared in front of the main entrance was an enormous motorcycle that plowed through the groups of Monokuma like a predator hunting its prey. Woo! Reinforcements! The rider of this motorcycle was none other than Mondo Owada. What? Exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark. Mukuro and Monokuma were both visibly shocked by this turn of events. Instead of addressing them, Mondo accelerated the motorcycle he stole from Monokuma directly towards Mukuro. Just before his front tire touched Mukuro, he popped a reverse wheelie and turned the entire motorcycle around. The back wheel swept over Mukuro's back, knocking away all the Monokumas that were pinning her. Hey, can you stand? Mondo asked begrudgingly, offering his hand to Mukuro. Question mark? Confused, Mukuro took his hand and stood up. What are you doing, Mondo? I was so close. One of the Monokumas protested, not his normal voice, but as the hacker, that's Shiki Madara. Oh yeah, you're the Shiki or whatever, right? That's right, why are you helping a terrorist? I ain't bragging about this or anything, but I have no clue if you or this girl's lying. The veins in his temple began to bulge, and his cheeks flustered with anger, as Mondo said. But still, I ain't the type to just stand around while some idiot gangs up on a girl. What are you saying? Get a hold of yourself. You must be experiencing Stockholm Syndrome. You're deluding yourself into thinking you're friends with the criminal who's taking you hostage. Monokuma tried to explain to Mondo, but he ignored him, took Mukuro's hand, and pulled her onto the back of the motorcycle. Oh, shut the fuck up. I don't know nothing about Stockholm's or syndromes. I love how he heard it wrong, but it's a funny term. These terms are funny. But don't go acting like he's bossing me around. As Mondo shouted, he grabbed up the motorcycle as if he was using it to punctuate his words. The ceiling mounted turns began moving, but the two disappeared before the turns could aim at the motorcycle. As Mondo shouted, he grabbed the motorcycle as if he was using it. Wait, this is... Sorry, I thought it was a new screen, but I realized the new words just on the bottom. As they zoomed through the hallway, countless Monokumas chased after them, waving their claws wildly through the air. Why? Huh? Shouted Mondo. His voice was even louder than the sound of the engine. Don't get the wrong idea. I don't trust you at all. He lowered his voice slightly, as if he were whispering to himself. But still, I don't know why, but I felt like I could trust what he said. He? Inquired Mukuro. Totally feel like you could show more characters' faces. There was no time for questions. The unit leading the Monokumas chased after the motorcycle that almost caught up to them. And then, like the enormous maw of some fearsome creature, they branched their claws in perfect confusion. At that moment, the motorcycle zoomed by a young girl. A girl whose fighting ability surpassed that of any normal human. The strongest girl on Earth. With a fighting spirit that defied comprehension, the ultimate martial artist kicked off the floor. A sound even louder than the motorcycle's engine filled the room. When Mukuro looked back, she saw Sakura standing on the floor, sending the pack of Monokumas flying several meters away. Sakura? She heard Mukuro mumble her name. Sakura didn't acknowledge it. Like a statue of a fearsome god king, she calmed her breathing as she stood before the pack of Monokumas ready for battle. Her pursuit methods seemed unbecoming for one who claims to be the ultimate hacker. An overpowering aura seeped from her skin, and her skin shimmered with an intense heat began to fill the hallway. Unlike the power of Mukuro's sheer violence, this was the power of a martial artist. Mukuro froze the air around her, and time along with it. But Sakura was generating enough heat to boil space itself as she stood before Monokumas. With the heat stinging her back, Mukuro looked ahead. Fumi and Chihiro were cautiously peeking from behind the door leading to the dorms, while Ayo and Taka kept watching from inside the building. They were passing by. Mondo slowed down the motorcycle as he reached the front entrance of the cafeteria and turned into a complete stop. The other students looked warily at Mukuro. Among these students, Mukuro noticed two people who weren't regarding with suspicion. One was Kilo, who seemed to be studying the situation. The other was a skinny boy who was leaning against Kyoko's shoulder. Makoto. Mukuro's lips began to tremble as she sat on the back of the motorcycle. Ignoring the pain coursing through his body, Makoto smiled at Mukuro and repeated what he said to her earlier. I'm glad you're safe, Mukuro. Unfortunately, Mukuro was unable to realize her hope of filling her little sister with despair. Instead, she successfully planted the seeds of hope into her fellow students. So many lines. Makoto had barely regained consciousness while Mukuro was fighting the hordes of Monokumas at the main entrance. When he woke up, he did something extremely simple. He talked about his memories. Most of the students were still skeptical even after listening to Mukuro's recorded confession on Chihiro's laptop. Obviously, they were still not entirely convinced at first when Makoto woke up, but after Sakura asked him a certain question, the ambience completely changed. And then beyond the walls of the school, the world is completely destroyed. You're saying there's no one else alive? Makoto slowly sat up to answer Sakura's meek question. And don't worry, I'm sure Kenshiro is still safe. I'm sure he'll still keep his promise to you. Sakura gasped. Kenshiro was the only man she couldn't defeat. Again, why I say, perfect example, Sakura gets beat. Has gotten beaten in a fight before. Yes. Even the ultimate martial artist can be beat. That's why I say it's better called super high school level. The man who made a promise, who promised her a rematch, and made her one other promise as well. How do you know that name? How do you know about that promise? Because you told me. No. Makoto slowly corrected himself. You told all of us. Sakura was silent after hearing those words, but then she faced the other students and spoke in a loud, clear voice. I'm going to trust Makoto. Sakura! Though Ayo was shocked, Sakura continued to speak with determination. Makoto just said, it's something I've kept locked away inside my memories. In fact, I was planning to keep that secret until the day I died. But if I shared that secret, that means there was once a strong bond between Makoto and myself. Well, my fellow students as well. Makoto continued talking in gentle tone. Though he couldn't have been good for his health, he continued to slowly talk about the memories the other students no longer had. Why do you know about the story I'm trying to write? Are you a specialist? Really, a Hunter use a reference? Are you a specialist non-user who can predict the future? No, you already finished that story. You had me help you with Inkling. What? Wait a sec. How do you know I'm extorting money from that girl? Whoa. Who's talking here? Because that's Fuyuhiko's clan. Because you even tried to sell my order. Okay, so it's Yasuhiro. God damn it, Yasuhiro. His wounds were excruciating, but even so, Makoto kept smiling and talking about their lives together, as if it was his duty to do so now that he had regained his memories. As the other students listened to him, they slowly began to realize something. The vivid accounts he was providing couldn't just be explained as just passing knowledge. Clearly, some kind of bond between them all had been erased. Only Ryaka remained cynical. There's no way I would have grown close to any of you. It's likely they all secretly working together. Though Byakko was still hostile towards Makoto's recollection of their memories, for the time being, he determined that Makoto wasn't actually a terrorist. Oh, thank God! Mukuro had bought enough time for Makoto to wake up and share his memories with the others. Even if she hadn't intended to do that, there was still a small sliver of hope that she grasped tightly. God, really? And now? She looked at the boy who had smiled at her. Mukuro didn't know what to say. She couldn't think of anything to say at all. The battle was over. Mukuro was now back to being a disappointing girl. She turned away from everyone's faces and apologized, limply climbed off the back of the motorcycle. Makoto saw her and slowly opened his mouth to say, "Thank you, Mukuro. You saved my life." Exclamation mark. Makoto gave her words of sincere gratitude between his weak breaths. Mukuro couldn't bring herself to look at him as she mumbled to herself, "Why? Huh? If Kyoko told you, then you already know what I did, right?" After getting his memories and learning the truth, Mukuro should have been nothing but a hated traitor to him. Why would he smile at someone like that? Mukuro kept her head down, and Makoto smiled as if he was unsure how to respond and say, "Well, I guess you're right. But you also saved my life many times during these past 2 years, and..." Makoto took a deep, quiet breath and smiled at Mukuro again. "You're my friend. We all spent time with each other. It would be great if you could look for a different path. Not despair. If there's any way I can help you, I will. Do you really think I can walk another path at this point? I don't know what you can do, or even what I can do, but I think it's more importantly to look for that path instead of actually finding it. Was this intentional or a coincidence?" Just before he regained his memories, Makoto had said something similar to Mukuro when she spoke to him in the nurse's office as Junko. Regardless of whether he lost his memories or regained them, those words revealed Makoto's true character. As Mukuro confirmed that to herself, Makoto blurted out something that was almost too trusting. "It's not just you, even Junko can." But he was immediately interrupted. Monokuma's face appeared on every monitor in the cabin, and his laughter seemed to be coming out of every speaker. I could have kept pretending to be that ultimate hacker, but it'd be boring to impersonate someone who doesn't even— Told you! Ultimate Hacker is not an actual person. Just keep up, I'll lose my identity and turn into Kano Kuma. That was terrible. Hiro looked at the surveillance camera and addressed Monokuma directly. You seem to give up pretty easily. There isn't a bear anywhere that gives up so easily as I do. Regardless, I'm pretty sure Chihiro has figured out the secret to my control program by now. So just as I thought, you included that program on purpose. Hiro realized something when Mukuro told her about Junko. There were two reasons that a hateful person would intentionally leave an obvious clue inside the Monokuma units. Either Junko wanted the students to learn the truth about the outside world themselves on their own and turn their hope into despair, or she was looking forward to that clue resulting in her own plan being undone, which allowed her to feel despair towards herself. Again, why causing Junko despair is meaningless. She is completely fine with it. She's happy to lose. She was an angel of everlasting darkness, delighting in her own despair, and using it to spread despair and destruction to those around her. Why would someone like that continue to play the role of Monokuma? Actually, I set that program for Chihiro to discover if he happened to be one of the final 5 survivors. I feel so sad and empty that my preparation was a waste, but I'm going to think about it positively. The word retreat does not exist in Monokuma's dictionary. Nervousness began to grip the students as Monokuma continued talking his relaxing, uplifting voice. Now then, it looks like everyone's here, including Toko, who's still tied up in her room. So let's start the hot, heart-throbbing, exciting special graduation exam, huh? The students broke up in noisy confusion. But Monokuma ignored them and kept talking. Don't think about it too hard. Relax, relax. Change, relax to upper, and for all I care. I'd still be the most... I don't even get what he's trying to say there. Most adorable bear here. Becca, visibly annoyed with Monokuma's nonsensical rambling, shouted. I already know it's you, Junko. Stop this stupid game and show yourself. Wait, you know it's Junko? Oh my, don't you know? If you want to lure the mastermind out of her heavenly hidey hole, you need to bring a worthy sacrifice. You're not worthy enough at all. Damn. It's the only thing he's good for, except being an asshole. Do you really think the mastermind would show up himself for your pathetic hope and despair? Wahaha! He roared maniacally and began to explain the special graduation exam. If you pass my exam, everyone will graduate, but if you fail, you'll be held back for a whole year. I'll reset your memories, give you a fresh new lease on life, and you'll reintroduce yourself at the start of the school year yet again. They say people's lives don't come with a reset button, but I'm not a people. Whether it's soft resets or hard resets, I can do as I please. Yasuhiro seemed confused, but the other students knew what Monokuma meant by reset. He was going to force them to relive their school lives once again. As Yasuhiro struggled to understand, Taka pointed to a nearby monitor and shouted, "Stop this already. No matter what you do to us, we'll never commit murder. These past few days should have already made that clear to you." What was that? Jumped Monokuma. Are you serious? Of course, no one here would ever take another human being's life for any reason. As Taka shouted, one of the students, a pale-faced girl standing apart from the others, looked away. It was Sayaka. As she trembled, a voice popped up from behind her. What do you think, Sayaka? Exclamation mark. She couldn't even turn around from sheer terror, but Sayaka knew. She knew Monokuma was standing right behind her. Do you really think none of you will become a killer? Monokuma leaned toward Sayaka and asked her a question only she could hear. By the way, Sayaka, why did you go to Makoto's room when nothing strange had happened yet? Did you two have an inappropriate relationship? What would your fan think if they found out you made a move on a boy by sneaking into his room? Or are you there for some other reason? She could barely make a sound, much less scream, as her trembling worsened. Monokuma had nothing to gain by cornering Sayaka and toying with her emotions like this. He simply wanted to see the younger singer fall into despair over a true character, and for that reason, Monokuma did not relent. Hey, what were you trying to do to your close friend who you've known for the past 2 years? Her determination from last night blended with memories Makoto had recounted and ate away at Sayaka's mind like a disease. As her mind began to rip itself apart, she fell to her knees. Clear ball, flying at just under 105 miles per hour, struck Monokuma in the mouth with enough force to sing into his face. The speaker in Monokuma's mouth was immediately destroyed as his body rolled into a wall and stopped moving. Sayaka came to her senses and looked where the ball came flying from. She saw Leon breathing heavily as he stared intensely at Monokuma. Yasuhiro grabbed him and yelled, Dude, why'd you do that, Leon? That crystal ball is really valuable. Leon had stolen Yasuhiro's crystal ball and thrown it at Monokuma. Of course, he still breaks the ball. That Monokuma bastard was trying to take Sayaka hostage. What was I supposed to do? Dude, that crystal ball cost me 2 trillion. 2 trillion. They don't even print that much money anymore. Okay, Yasuhiro, why do you buy a crystal ball that's that expensive? Oh, bullshit. Besides, the world's all screwed up. What the hell are you gonna need money for anyway? But if it's safe out there, I'll just join the major leagues or whatever and pay you back. Well, I can pay you back doing something else besides. Well, I could pay you back doing something else besides baseball. As those two argued, Sayaka fell to her knees. Hey, hey, shouted Leon, running towards her. Sayaka, are you okay? She looked at him and stared blankly. Leon, she had made up her mind. She raised her head as she said, there's something I need to confess to you later. What? Seriously? You're not getting a love confession there. Maiko was staring at Leon so intensely that he briefly forgot about the current situation, not just to you, but to Makoto and the others too. Sayaka made up her mind to confess the sin that was weighing heavily on her heart. Well, Leon seemed to not hear the latter half of the remark. He ran back to the others, slapped Hifumi and Yasuhiro on their backs, and shouted, "Alright, everyone, let's ace this exam or whatever and get out of here already." You're not getting a... Yeah, you're not getting a love confession here. There's no way I'm going to let my happy memories of this place get taken away. The Monokumas inside the monitor responded. Fine, fine. Now that things are finally coming to a boil, let's start the graduation exam. Sayaka, who had been outside the dormitory, suddenly appeared with some information. The Monokumas in the hallways were acting secure. The students all moved to the main building to see what Sakura was talking about. They saw 50 Monokumas standing in 2 rows, all in the hallways, and the one standing at the very end of the hallway. There was something strange on the top of this Monokuma's head. A large version of the escape button that Makoto had obtained from the Mono machine. As she instantly looked at the site, an announcement rang through up the school. The me at the end of the hallway has a button on the top of his head that will open the main entrance. You have 15 seconds to get that button, and if you do, I'll let you place the diploma. The student seemed surprised by a straightforward explanation. Only Celeste remained calm, and she asked Monokuma with a bored look on her face. Of course, it's not as simple as running up and taking it, is it? Oh, how mean. Do I look like the kind of headmaster that would interfere with his student's graduation exam? You got the gun her salutes. I'm going to send my graduates off with fireworks. 100 fireworks to be exact. Enough for 20 seconds of hardcore party. The more perceptive students immediately realized what he's talking about. The bombs set off each Monokuma. They would explode one after the other, filling the hallway with fire as soon as time started. After 15 seconds, the me standing back the hall is going to sacrifice himself to give you guys one final firework. By the way, this probably isn't important, but that button is very durable. This graduation exam was Monokuma's way of saying that he had no intention of letting anyone leave. It was clear from the explosion the student saw during the entrance exam that the hall of Monokuma Post the Academy would be bathed in fire. If someone was lucky enough to survive the explosion, the burns on their body would be enough to send them to fatal shock. Their lungs would be completely incinerated by the scorched air before that. If they sacrificed one student to run through, the odds were low that they would even succeed. But there was no reason for every student to run in at once either, and a shadow of despair fell upon their faces. Nice, very nice. I almost want to take a picture so I have these faces as a souvenir. As Monokuma laughed from behind them. Mother, Sakura, step forward. I'll do it. I have only seen the explosion once, but I believe I'm capable of withstanding its power. No, shouted Ayo. You can't. Even if you couldn't handle 100 of those explosions. Sakura shook her head. I'm the only one who even has a chance. Suddenly, Mondo remembered the motorcycle he parked inside the dormitory and said, Hold up, that motorcycle might be fast enough to go through those explosions. I'll do it. Don't be hasty, urged Sakura. Even if the motorcycle is unharmed by the explosion, that doesn't mean the rider will be. Sakura and the others continue their debate. One person stepped forward towards the hallway with Monokuma's. I'll do it. Mukuro screamed Makoto weakly. Wow, that's definitely a typo. Makuro? That really should be Mukuro. With her back facing Makoto, turned her head to the side slightly and gave him a small nod. She knew it would come to this. She knew why Monokuma would pose such an impossible exam. Junko is already looking forward to the next despair game. She's going to erase everyone's memories, including mine. She just wants to torment us and fill us with such despair if that happens. But Mukuro knew her sister's personality all too well, and that's why she was confident. She knew that the escape button was real. Whenever Junko brought despair to others, she always made sure there was a possibility that despair would befall her instead. Again, I've said this multiple times now, but Junko is literally annoying, impossible to beat, because win or lose, she still wins. the students won this gamble and made it through this horrible situation, they would finally escape to the outside world. That outcome would obviously fill Junko with immense despair. In the same way she left the clue in Monokuma's control program, Junko would not be satisfied unless she took pains to ensure her own destruction. It was this quality that made Junko the ultimate despair. That's why Mukuro was determined to do this. She knew she was the only person who stood a chance of making that outcome possible, even if she had to risk her life. But right now, Mukuro wanted to live more than anything. She wanted to hold on to this world, a world she had no interest in previously. She didn't even know if the sensation she felt was disappointing or not. She wanted to live and continue searching for a new path. A path where she could abandon her submission to despair. Where she would accept the sins of the past and continue to live. Mukuro, who was known as a war machine, found her heart beset by overwhelming fear and anxiety. Until now, it never occurred to her that determination was necessary to live. As if she was brushing that fear aside, she quietly said, "Thank you, Makoto." Unfortunately, the words she said to the boy who showed her new possibilities never reached his ears. Sakura, however, heard her, and frowned as she said, "If you're planning to sacrifice yourself as an act of penance, I'll stop you with all my power." But her words were firm. There was an unmistakable affection hiding in them. Both girls had dedicated their lives to battle, and yet Mukuro felt a twinge of jealousy towards Sakura, sensing something she lacked. Mukuro leaned towards Sakura and whispered in her ear, "What, are you serious?" As Sakura's frown intensified, Monokuma's voice blared through the halls. "Alright, I'm gonna start the exam now. Ready, set, go!" There was no time for questions or objections. The frontmost Monokuma exploded, sending a roaring whir of heat throughout the hall. But Mukuro didn't look away. She began moving, powered by resolute determination. We've got to be in the Monokuma room. As soon as the graduation exam started, the mastermind focused her control entirely on the Monokuma holding the escape button, and completely synchronized her field of vision with it. She knew what was going to happen next. She could predict what her sister Mukuro would do in this exact situation, where she would choose to focus her superhuman skill with weaponry. And so, through Monokuma's eyes, she watched the scene unfold exactly as she predicted. A pointed metal bar burst through the explosion, straight for the weak point of the Monokuma holding the button. Specifically, it was aiming for the point where the bomb's detonation system and Monokuma's power source overlapped. It flew straight and true, and it had fired as if it had been fired by a master archer. In order to bring despair to Mukuro, Monokuma, and extension Juka as well, the super soldier known as Mukuro Musabi threw the pipe like a spear so it could attack the same weak point she had pierced in the nurse's office. As the explosion filled the hallway until it only fire remained visible, the spear's speed and precision as it soared to the targets, it started to defy all human logic. The mastermind knew. She knew Mukuro had used her power to fill the world with despair. Power was all that disappointing girl had. But power was useless against Monokuma. The mastermind had predicted that Mukuro would put all her effort into that throw, and Monokuma caught the metal bar perfectly between his hands. The force of the throw knocked Monokuma back several yards, but the pointed end of the bar never pierced through his chest. Well, that was disappointing. The mastermind turned to look at a different monitor. She wanted to see the look on Mokuro's face when she realized that she failed to strike Monokuma. Despair, seeing the final Monokuma explode right before her eyes, completely obliterating the escape button. She wanted to sear this memory of disappointing sister's final moments as her newfound hope sank into a dark pit of despair. On instinct, she turned her attention to the surveillance camera that had been destroyed, but instead of seeing Mukuro and the others, she only saw Sakura, looking as though she had finished launching an attack. She only thought it was strange for 1 second, but then the hopelessly powerful mastermind completely understood the situation and shifted her point of view to Monokuma. But because of that single second, Junko could feel a pang of despair. 3 seconds left. Amidst the soaked flames of heat circling the hallway, it burned to the speed of a cannon shell. It glared at Monokuma with hot, boiling eyes that betrayed the icy expression on its face, and then, sharply, swiftly, strongly, it transformed into a living weapon that cut through everything, revealing its true form in that call of despair. 2 seconds left. Monokuma was still holding the metal bar in his hands, trying to move, but that exact move, the living weapon carved the path of the flames appeared before him. Its body, which had never been wounded on a battlefield, was sustaining all matters of burns and injuries, but even so, it did not falter. The fires in its eyes never flickered once. 1 second left. The living weapon, Mukuro slammed her knee into the back of the metal Monokuma was holding. The sharp of the metal pierced through Monokuma's like a rail spike, shredding the detonator and his power source into pieces. Time's up. The 100 explosion ceased and smoke blanketed the hallway. Mukuro had dived into Monokuma, and the preceding button now rested in her hand. She and those students of Hope Speak Academy had passed the graduation exam. It was only a small amount of despair. Monokuma had tasted it only for 3 seconds. First floor hallway. Junko. Mukuro looked down at Monokuma. He could no longer move or self-destruct. When she spoke to him, a static-filled voice emitted from his mouth. It seemed his communication function still worked. I never expected you to do that. He still sounded like Monokuma, but it seemed his voice modulator was unharmed as well. I must have overestimated you. I never thought you'd need anyone's help on the battlefield. When I give the signal, please launch me forward with a roundhouse kick. Mukuro whispered these words to Sakura just before the explosion started. After Mukuro threw the metal bar at her, she jumped into the air at the exact moment Sakura unleashed a roundhouse kick. Right when Sakura's foot made contact with her own, Mukuro used the force generated by her kick to propel herself on Monokuma. Using the ultimate martial artist's superhuman attack like a springboard, she shot herself through the air like an artillery shell. Enduring intense heat, shrapnel, and blood-draining G-force, she stayed conscious as she charged through the hallway engulfed with explosion of despair. Mukuro trusted Junko. She trusted Junko to predict that she'd throw the metal bar and catch it accordingly. Then she tried to look at her face as the despair set in. The Junko and Ashima she knew would definitely do that. Although Mukuro hadn't predicted that her sister would try to kill her with the spears of Gungnir, she had a better understanding of her actions now. As Mukuro stared at Monokuma in his face, all he could do was laugh scornfully. You put your life in someone else's hand for a deadly battle. I don't know how I feel about that. You'll always be a half-assed disappointment. I guess this time I'll say I lost because I didn't see this much disappointment coming. The end. Mukuro shook her head at Monokuma. No, you're wrong, Junko. Huh? If you want to talk about winning or losing, I think we lost before it even started. Mukuro's eyes shifted from side to side as if she was unsure of something. She fidgeted in place as she continued to talk. No matter how much despair they felt. You didn't think they'd kill each other the way they were before. That's why you erased their memories. They weren't like the others you forced in the past. You knew these students would never do it. That's why you believed, isn't it? What are you talking about? So, it's okay, Junko. I'll bring back everyone's memories someday. And I'll show you everyone's happiness and their bonds. I'll show all that to you. Fill you with even more despair. Mukuro nodded. After he said, as if to cheer her sister up. After several seconds of silence, Monokuma responded, You finally beat me this one time, and that lame speech is the best you can do. You're such a disappointment. You'll never fill me with despair. It's just constant disappointment. After pouting like a sore loser, Monokuma continued to speak in his usual tone. But you guys will be back. And when that time comes, I'll invite you guys to a wonderful place. I found out about this fun island where I was running things here. While I was running things here. And now we know why this was in Danganropa 2, not Danganropa 1. Monokuma's laughter filled the room before the static finally cut out and his remains fell silent. He wouldn't be talking again anytime soon. The mastermind was already preparing a new despair to bring to the world, and the students of Hope Speak Academy, Junko included. In the end, the mastermind stayed behind in her Monokuma persona until the very end, and Junko and Ashima never showed her face again. It was as if she resented the despair Mukuro had given her. That thought almost filled Mukuro with despair. Then she heard classmates calling out for her. She sealed that despair into the depths of her heart. From now on, she would seal away all her despair. One day, she can give Junko the perfect despair. When she can give Junko the perfect despair, she'll unleash all the despair she stored and plunge with her sister into a dark abyss. I won't leave my little sister alone. Please leave her alone. In the end, that was the first hope the disappointing older sister had felt since she was a child. Several hours later, main entrance. Mukuro, are you really going to go out there wearing that wig? After seeing a blood transfusion with the correct blood type, Makoto was beginning to show signs of recovering. Mukuro, holding her wing to disguise herself as Junko and Ashima, nodded. If I live as Junko, I might be able to understand her better. Why can Mukuro never just live as Mukuro? At least there's been Tumblr RPs for that. Despite that, Mukuro's voice still sounded like her own, as if she hadn't fully decided. And I've made up my mind. While I'm out there, I've decided I accept everyone's hatred towards me and towards Junko. I can't die until I've destroyed all the despair that Junko has spread. The damage that the ultimate despair inflicted upon the world would not be measured in terms of money, culture, or even human life. Television broadcasts had already begun informing people that Junko and Ashima and Mukuro Uesabi were the heart of ultimate despair. Among the survivors in the outside world, there are still people who hadn't been tainted by despair yet. Regardless of the fact, she released Makoto and the others. To these survivors, she was nothing more than the reason the world ended. The To the terrorist wearing Monokuma masks to continue the ravage of the world, Mukuro was nothing but a traitor. She was now in a hopeless situation of being enemies with most of humanity. But Mukuro wasn't making a big deal out of it. I'm going to try not to kill anyone who comes after me for revenge. Wouldn't it be safer to just turn yourself in? And Yasuhiro? The wondered Yasuhiro? Well, you might just get executed instead, but you would live to be an old lady if your trial keeps getting pushed back. Mukuro slowly shook her head at Yasuhiro. Laws, justice, things no longer exist. Is it really that bad out there? Maybe we should just stay in here. Baka glared at Yasuhiro with contempt. Ignorant idiots should just shut up. Your fate won't change whether you stay in here or not. Though he was shocked to learn the Togami Corporation had been destroyed, Koyaka continued to remain firm and proud, even towards Mukuro. You're a rare asset, continued Koyaka, so I'll let you live for now. Depending on your actions, I may consider forgiving your crimes after I built a new world. I'm not going to... Why wouldn't this asshole still just... Why could they have killed this asshole? Only a Togami would boast that they're capable of forgiving the crimes of any in the world. You don't need to do that. I don't plan on just surviving. After turning away from Baka, Mukuro looked at the other students. Everyone was reacting in their own way. Kyoko had a look of quiet preparation. Kyoko had just changed back from Genocide or Show, was panicking and confused. Mukuro looked back at the 2 years she spent with them, and then turned to Makoto, who shared the same memories as her, and gave him an escape button. Makoto, you press it. Huh, me? I think it's better if you press it instead of me. She watched Makoto accept the button with some hesitation. Mukuro thought about what Monokuma had said. You guys will be back. Mukuro knew that Monokuma was telling the truth. After all, the files the students need to fully restore their lost memories remain hidden in the academy. The research notes of Yasuke Matsuda, the ultimate neurologist. His research is the key to restoring everyone's memories. Even the students no longer have their memories. They may be able to repair the bond they had built among themselves over the past 2 years. But as long as their memories remain unrestored, the Mastermind can still repeat her deadly plan. Although the island mentioned earlier sounded strange, the students could not turn their backs on the despair facing them. Then let's go. Makoto remembered everything that was happening in the outside world. The boy had chosen to remain inside the academy 2 years ago, was now choosing to leave. How much did he struggle to come to that decision? He was determined to face the despair awaiting him outside, his internal conflict with the others. By protecting Makoto's hope, Mukuro would bring despair to her beloved sister, but she no longer knew if this was the end result of her goal would lead to the hope or despair. The end result of her goal, she pulled the wig over her head and hid her face with her hands. Was she smiling because hope was waiting for her? Was she crying because her path would lead to despair? When she lowered her hands, her face was devoid of all emotion. Mukuro no longer knew what expression she would wear on her face. At the same time, Makoto pressed the escape button. A siren began to wail as the turrets retracted into the ceiling. From beyond the heavy doors, a bright light appeared. An infinite number of ifs, and all that possibility contained there, encased in the world. Accepting everything, hope, despair, and even the feelings of that disappointing girl, Mukuro Misabi. A little cutscene for you guys. I get a break from talking. Finally, we get to see something. Like, see it? Actually, I want to watch this. I've never seen this before. Finish. Let's save changes. Sure, I don't know what that would do for us, but on that note, we have finished Danganropa If. Honestly, not a bad story. I like it. Honestly, I would have loved to have seen it animated because all that text. Well, yeah, I can imagine everything that happened. I honestly would have loved to have seen that animated. Who knows? Maybe we could get it as an OVA or something. But on that note, I'm going to have to call it for here. I mean, we've been streaming about 2 hours and 55 minutes. I did not expect the story to take so long. Honestly, I have no idea if it's possible to save, if that's why I did one showing for you guys, but next time we'll probably finish with our last episode of Danganropa 2. And with that, probably one of the last things I'll have to do with Danganropa 2. It's been a hell of a journey, but it's almost the end. On this note, I'm going to do a little short introduction because my voice is tired from talking pretty much 2 hours, for almost 3 hours straight. So forgive me if I don't do a lengthy, my usual ending, but thank you for coming to my show. I hope you enjoyed it. It was interesting reading an entire light novel for you guys. Still don't know who that amazing writer is. You know who it is. Feel free to tell me. On that note, this is The Night Show. I'll see you guys next time.